policy in Kenya to make sure that structures are being followed in terms of payments and making business, like creating a conducive business environment in Kenya as far as arts is concerned. So that could make art thrive in Kenya.
All right.
Yes.
What about you, Camilla, as a stage actor? Just, the same question. There's been a lot of dwindling in that. It's just been going down in that particular space. The way I mentioned, there's so much on the online space. There's, different platforms and avenues where I can get such content. You also realize that when you stage a theater play, there's a possibility of it being posted online. And for me as an audience, I might think, why do I need to be in that space and sit and watch and I can just get it regardless? So for you as a person, as an actor, what do you feel needs to be done, at least to revive the theater culture, the theater space?
I think one thing we can't ignore is that we are actually moving into the digital era. So it's something we cannot ignore and say, okay, we need to stick to what used to be before. I think we need to find a sweet balance of both worlds. Because even with the case right now, trying to put a show online and asking somebody to pay for it, it feels like they're not getting the true essence of theater, the culture that we've built for a very long time. So I feel like it's just finding the balance between the two and setting up the structures, like Alan has said, to be put in place where we have a balance of both worlds, and just having the people as well accept these changes that are happening and being cognizant of the situation that we're in at the moment.
So then how would you convince me as an audience? I'm trying to just think of an hypothetical situation where, yes, you're moving to the digital space and everything is on that particular platform, and the way both of you are saying is that perhaps we need to start embracing, that area or that space. But for an audience, who's so much like into that particular space, the digital space, how would you convince them? Because then again, in as much as you want to perhaps move there, we cannot shun away the culture. It's beautiful to just sit there and watch. It's beautiful to sit in that theater space, in that theater hall, and watch that particular play. So how would you convince me as an audience the importance of me sitting there to watch, as opposed to just waiting for the content online?
It's true, theater is contagious, so the audience needs to get the feeling firsthand. But considering the measures right now and the trends, COVID-19 is an emerging issue, so we have to conform to the status and see how to make it work, irrespective of the challenges. So we believe as a company, yes, we are taking a risk. It's true, it's a big risk, but we'd rather be on the good side of history as the first theater company to stream a theater show. Then others can follow suit. Like right now, many theater companies have cancelled their shows, but we are not cancelling. We are going to stream live.
You are relentless.
For our audience. Yeah, we are never giving up. We never say never.
I love that.
Yes.
Okay, Camilla, does it mean that now perhaps stage actors or just actors as a whole need to do more in terms of being creative more to convince audiences the importance of actually sitting there and watching the play? Because the way we are saying, in as much as we might want to adapt, that this is where we are moving to, but culture is still culture.
Yeah, it's very true. And as actors, we just need to have that initiative ourselves, to maintain the community of actors and to make sure that the people around us, our family, our friends, our colleagues, we're making them aware of what's going on. And that's what Apex is actually trying to do, making people aware and informed of what's happening. So actors, we need to really put in a lot of effort, initiative, and just be resilient with the changes that are happening, because it's clear that things are not going to be the same again. So we need to find a way to move forward together as a community of actors.
All right, before we go deeper into your play, I would love us to address some tidbit like issues here and there, especially as it pertains to mostly stage actors. There's always that concern, or if I can say issue of most actors or most people in the entertainment space would really want to focus more on the fame bit of it. I want to be known, I want to be recognized, as opposed to putting the commitment aspect. Again, as a director, meaning you really worked so closely with such actors and actresses, have you had to perhaps grapple with this kind of an issue, and how would you deal with that? Wasanii wanataka kuwa famous sana.
True. Fame is sweet, but fame without money, it's a problem. Now, there's an issue of mentorship in our industry. Like the guys who came before us, there is no string of mentorship in terms of the business aspect of art. So what we would like to do as a company, and we want to be the change we want to see. So we are trying to shape up characters in terms of art in whole, to know how to commoditize their art in a very professional way, so that you're not famous without a shilling. It's very sad. It leads to depression. We've seen a lot of cases online, and such cases, we are highlighting such cases in our play, which we'll talk about
in
later.
a short while.
Yes.
When you talk, when you touch a bit on mentorship, and I keep saying here all the time, anytime we have a conversation, especially about, on creatives, artists, musicians, you just name it, I never miss to ask that question on mentorship, because again, you realize with our generation, mentorship is very important. And again, we're living at a time where we feel like we are a generation of people where we feel like, I'm very talented. I know, as long as I'm in this space, clearly hakuna kitu naweza niambia per se. So when you talk about that mentorship bit, what are you doing to ensure that these artists are nurtured to grow into the people that they have to be?
Now, as a company, as Apex Glint, our philosophy is each one, reach one. So we want to scrap off the mentality of selfishness.
Okay.
Artists are very selfish. I'm not sorry to say so, because I've been there.
You are saying it very confidently?
Yeah, we are very selfish. We need to change that. You're not supposed to make someone go through the same situation you went through as a thriving artist at that time. So make life better. That is the essence of life. Try and give people platforms that elevate their talents, not the same way you are given platforms, in a positive manner. So that is the main issue.
Okay.
If we address the aspect of not being selfish, then mentorship will start from there. Yes.
Camilla, as a stage actor, as an actor, or just as someone who's in that space, has this ever been an issue for you? Perhaps I just feel like I've done a couple of plays, or I've done a couple of things here and there. I feel like I just want to be known. I feel like I just want to be famous. Like the commitment perspective or commitment bit of it is really not so much of a priority for me as a person. Has that ever been an issue for you? And perhaps if yes, how have you dealt with that?
Actually, it's not been an issue. I think it depends with the individual. So for me personally, I think theater for me is just the love and the passion, and me being able to do, play these characters and be able to convey this message. So it just depends upon the person. Yes, some people come into it because of the fame, and maybe they saw somebody famous, maybe in Hollywood, and they're like, that's where I want to go. So if that's your vision, you can't blame them for their vision. But if my vision is different, my vision is maybe to impact people, my vision is maybe to, in giving, I receive, then I will definitely have a different perspective to this. Yes.
Oh, all right. So clearly, altogether, just what you're saying is that mentorship is very important, especially
very
for
key.
artists. So then again, do you feel like that is one of the things that misses in this industry as a whole, just art as an industry as a whole? And if yes, what can be done?
I'll go back to my second point.
Okay.
The aspect of involving the government. Art thrives in a social economy. So the moment the government invests in art, many opportunities will arise. For a theater company to run, we need an accountant, we need lawyers, we need PR agents. So that means the more the theater companies, the more the employment opportunities. And that goes down to a stable art policy for these things to work.
Okay, fine. Let's talk about the Wizard song, the play. As the the playwright of that particular play, what was the concept behind that specific play?
COVID-19.
What about it? There's a lot about COVID-19.
Now,
what's specific about it?
The Wizard song is very symbolic.
Okay.
The Wizard song probably, in different interpretations, many people will tend to think we are talking about wizards.
Yeah,
and their songs.
just from the name.
Yeah. So, but in this case, Wizard is an artist. His craft is like, let's say, a poison in him. And he's the lead character in this play. He's highlighting the challenges he went through during COVID-19 as an artist in relation to the doctor's plight and the political space.
All right.
Yeah. So it is a matter of human versus nature conflict. Yeah. We are not pointing fingers. We are just challenging the audience. We are inspiring them, and we are out to edutain. Yes.
You are out to educate.
Yeah.
So more like educating as well as
And
entertaining the masses.
In one space.
Okay. Camilla, what is your role in this play, and how has it shaped or changed you all through?
So it's actually very interesting that the role that I got, I could actually relate to it. So I play a nurse, and I'm speaking towards the plight of the doctors and the nurses. And the interesting bit is that my mom is a retired nurse. So I actually experienced everything she used to go to before, obviously, COVID. You know, the sacrifices that nurses make. Even when the doctors strike, some of them still show up to hospitals trying to help their patients, you know, provide services. So for me, this nurse thing kind of speaks, you know, from an inward point of view for me to express myself and to air that voice that, you know, the nurses and the doctors are actually pleading for.
So it's like the role was more personal and specific to you.
Yes, it was actually very interesting and coincidental. So yeah, I'm taking it from a very personal note and feeling it from a very different perspective.
All right. As you go about getting characters for different play, and even specifically this one, what exactly do you go looking out for? You know, just borrowing from what Camilla is saying, is that this was more personal for her because she's more relatable to, you know, the kind of role that you gave her. Is that what you also go for when you go picking, you know, characters here for different roles?
There are two aspects of casting in a play. There is general auditions in terms of just auditioning different characters and seeing if at all they fit within the shoes of the character Bible you're trying to script as a writer, because you need to put life into the characters on paper. So the first aspect is either online auditions or physical auditions, but as a company we chose typecasting. Because of the measures, of the COVID measures. Typecasting is whereby you cast a character in relation to their behaviors, their poise, their delivery, and their image in terms of the context of the script, irrespective of auditioning, because you write with such people in mind.
So, Camilla, does it mean that, you know, for you guys, have you been taking the COVID containment measures even before the announcement came on Friday? How have you been running your space, the rehearsal space?
Yeah, of course, the announcement on Friday was a very, you know, saddening moment for us as actors, and the fact that, you know,
it wasn't what was expected.
It was not.
But it's life.
But it is life. That's the thing about it. As, like, the community that we've built, even as the Apex community, it's that we always communicate. We're always, like, keeping each other, you know, comforted. We're there supporting each other. So for us, you know, in as much as that downfall kind of came up, we kind of started thinking about, so what do we do next? What's the next step? Because we can't sit down and keep sulking the whole day. We know it's out of our control, it's out of our hands. We need to do something about it. And so we keep communication, you know, WhatsApp, if it's WhatsApp, we do video calls. We need to, you know, talk. We need to update each other. And also as actors, we take the initiative to kind of reach out to each other, you know, see how is this role going for you? I think we should adjust this. So it's just pushing through and being resilient through the changes that are happening.
I love what is coming out from both of you. You know, resilience. It just means that nothing can shake. Like
there
it comes,
no
it just
back. We will not. We are never.
It just shakes, but you still stand strong. All right, let's just talk a bit about what goes into the kind of plays that you make. You know, from the explanation you've given on the Wizard song, at least you get to understand that it's something timely, is perhaps what we're going through even as a country right now. But what really shapes the kind of plays that you make there?
Impacting the society. I write with purpose, because
you just don't think and write.
Yeah, I write with purpose, and I try as much as possible to communicate the things I cannot communicate as an individual through writing, because as I told you before, art is very relative. So each and every situation you come up with in terms of writing and putting up a very interesting plot, trust you me, 2 or 3 people interrelate with each and every situation that is in the plays that we try and do. And like right now, we are focusing on emerging issues. We are not writing about HIV. It's an issue, but right now it's not of urgency. So we focus on matters that touch humanity directly. Like, for example, we did a play in late 2019 called China. It was a political satire on bad governance, corruption, and neocolonialism. So these are factors affecting us as citizens. In this play, we are talking about challenges within COVID-19 measures as artists, doctors, general audience, and how the political space is affecting these issues. And right now, you can see aspects like gender-based violence.
A lot in the
depression, PTSD. So in future, we are going to write about such issues.
So it's basically societal issues and what affects us as a people.
Yes.
Okay, finally, as we draw the conversation to a close, and I'd want to start with you, Camilla, just as we said earlier, is that now we have the containment measures, so it means people cannot go watch the play the way it was scheduled. What are you guys doing? Since also you're talking more about we are not relenting, we are not stopping, regardless, we have to move and continue. What are you guys doing?
So I'm very happy and pleased that, you know, the Apex company has, you know, pushed through the boundaries and the hurdles that have actually come onto us, and we're actually going to do a live stream of the show. So it's still the same charges. We're now doing it on a Sunday, 4th of April, 2 p.m., and it's going to be live. So we're going to, you know, respect the measures that have been provided, and actors will be on stage acting live, and we'll have the cameras on set, and everything will be playing as if you're on the stage, but now you'll just be at the comfort of your home, you know, sipping a cup of tea and enjoying yourself. Yes.
Again, and Alan, as Camilla is mentioning that, yes, you'll be doing a live stream, so it means it's still very much on. What further details can you give us?
The posters are online on our social media platforms. On Instagram is apex.glint. On Facebook and Twitter, apexglint. And the stream, we'll share the links to the people who would support. We are not selfish, but support the artists kindly. The tickets are only 1,000 shillings. And you'll get the links to the stream on the D-Day. Yeah.
Okay. Support is what you're calling
for. Let us support Kenyan artists.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alan, Shioso, and Camilla, just talking to us about art, specifically also the future of stage and theatre plays amidst COVID-19, right?
Yes.
Okay, also the message coming through right now is that Kineni wa Embu tuned from Embu with her sister Anne. We wish her wife Eunice McKenna a quick recovery. She is admitted at Embu Level 5 Hospital, and here we continue to wish her a quick recovery even as she goes through this. That is Eunice McKenna there. We want to take a very quick breather, but we're not yet done with Good Morning Kenya. There's plenty more on the other side.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mulitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit. Quickbit? Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder. 399 shillings. Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
The people are flocking to this wild man, John. They think he's a prophet. Some even call him the Messiah.
There is one to come who will baptize with fire. I am just a voice in the wilderness, preparing the way for the...
5,000 came to see him. 5,000.
The king comes to you riding on a donkey.
There is something unusual about him.
There is nothing unusual about him apart from his ability to cause havoc.
If the disturbances that took place today are repeated,
I will crush any rebellion.
Tell us, are you the Son of God?
I am.
On the next episode of
hizo sura ukiziangalia hivi Yaani nazifananisha lakini asiingiani vizuri bado.
Kwani Sudi, unafika kwa ishi wapi?
Mishomoroni. Wamtaka?
Na nimtake nimpeleke wapi?
Penda nawe.
Ama kweli wewe umefanya kutumwa na Sudi, si ndio?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
It's a gift from my father. Show it to the commander of the Greek army. He will follow your orders then.
A blot on the face of the Mauryan Empire.
I have no idea as to how this is related to Acharya Chanakya's murder.
Who had come to you? Who had bought it from you? Was he from the royal palace? Answer me!
The emperor is not well. He's on his deathbed.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Sasa ule mwisho kabisa wa ule gavana umefika. Na hivi mkwambiavyo kulingana na ile maneno na washikadau na watu wote wale tuliozungumza nao. Sasa hivi atakuja kuwa raia wa kawaida.
Rais wote.
You are now looking to a future governor.
What?
What's up? How you guys doing? Thank you for staying with us this far. In case you are just joining us, welcome to the party. This is Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Wambui. As always, glad you are with us. Check in pale Twitter. Tuambie unatupata ukiwa pande gani ya Kenya, at KBC Channel 1 News, at Victor Olo, at Regina Range, at Manyara, and at Jane Wambui is how you can find us across the socials. And of course, the hashtag that you need to get on is hashtag Good Morning Kenya. Right now, thank you so much to everyone who's retweeting all our feed. Naona React Lord, Mwamburi kama kawaida. Anauliza about conversation yesterday. Maybe D, you could get on the socials, you respond to this particular concern about the interview we had yesterday on menstrual hygiene management. We also have King Bird once again, React Lord, Open Our Country, sasa ni handle ya mtu officially. Thank you all so much who have checked in. We do appreciate you. Keep it with us up until we close the program. Kiplagat Kitur, nakuona hapo hivi Twitter. All right, so now we want to continue with the interviews that we had scheduled for you, and now we still want to keep up with the entertainment conversation. And now we have two beautiful gospel artists with us in studio, both ladies, hence my using the word beautiful. Najua, there's that guy I told he looks beautiful, akasema, why are you gender stereotyping me? You know? So we have two ladies with us in studio this morning. That is, there they are on your screens. To the extreme left of your screen, that is Rose Njero. She is a gospel artist. Salimia out to Rose kidogo.
Hello.
There we go. We also have Esther Maundo, who is also a gospel artist. Hi, Esther.
Hi, Jen.
Karibuni sana to the program.
Thank you.
And maybe we could start by giving our viewers the social media handles so that they can also interact with you. Tuanze nawe, Esther.
Thank you so much, Jen, for that opportunity. You can find my music at in YouTube at Esther Maundu, and then in Twitter at Momo Maundu. That's my Twitter handle. And then Facebook, I called myself Esther Kamaku.
Ah, yeah.
Yes.
Rose, how can guys find you on the socials?
Okay, I'm on YouTube, Rose Njero, and on Facebook, I'm Rose Nyambura.
All right. So if you feel you want to interact with them personally, you can always reach out via the social media handles. Now, we want to understand how your journey has been getting to where you are, ladies. And for most people, when we talk to gospel artists, most of their journeys start from way back when they're children. Nilikuwa kwa choir, my parents were very vested in church. Was it the same conversation with you? Acha nianze na wewe, Esther. Safari yako ya muziki ilianza when?
And as I said, I began singing a long time ago in Sunday school, in choir, And actually, I remember when I was like in class 7, class 8, I used to compose songs for my home choir. Most of the time I would listen to a sermon, and up to date I listen in that form, like someone is preaching or talking about the word of God,
yes.
Then I listen in writing form. By the end, someone is done with that sermon, I'm already done with a song. So I get the message and then I write it down in form of a song.
Then?
Yes, then immediately. Like I remember there's this particular day, a preacher came from Tanzania, and then he was preaching, and by the time they are done, I had written a song, and after that, after our church service, we used to have sessions of choir meetings and all that. I gave them the song, I taught them the song, and it became a hit. That, and we began singing all over. Everywhere we went, we were singing that song, and it was so dear to my heart.
Yeah.
Then, like other times, my dad loved me so much. He like trusted me a lot. He would send me to go look up the cattle and all that. So when I go out there, every other time I'm alone, I was just singing and singing and singing. So it's been quite something in me. Until recent, I discovered that this thing about singing is not getting out of me. It's not going. So in 2010, I did my first album, but then I kind of got discouraged, I'd say. I didn't do it again.
And find out what discouraged you.
Yes, and then in 2019, now I recorded some other songs.
All right.
My first video I did last month, this year.
All right, so we'll be coming to that in a bit.
Yeah.
But let's also get to hear from you, Rose. You know, just looking back at your musical journey, how far back does it go?
Well, I would first start by saying, at the moment I'm working with the ACK Nairobi Diocese. I'm an evangelist at ACK St. Catherine Tumaini.
Yes.
And the issue of singing has come just the other day. I should say I'm 1 month old in singing. And the singing has come as a result of a moment we had a time of prayer and fasting in our church.
Yes.
And in those 21 days, that is the time this song came. And it is talking about waiting on God patiently. And it came in a very funny way, because I remember we were going somewhere with my pastor, and she told me to wait for her somewhere along Outer Ring Road.
Yes.
And we had agreed we meet there at 8, but I decided to arrive there before her. And so as I was waiting for her, I heard the Lord asking me, how about waiting on me? How about waiting on me than the way you are waiting for your pastor? And I remember asking the Lord, I am sorry that if I have not been waiting for you, please forgive me. And I remember at that moment, I started praying, asking the Lord to forgive me, asking the Lord to forgive those who have not been waiting for him and trusting him. And after that session of prayer, I remember hearing a song coming from my heart. And I started saying, Kumngojea Yesu, Kumngojea Yesu. And I discovered this was not something normal. So I removed my phone and I recorded it. And immediately after recording, my pastor arrived and we went to where we were going. Yeah, and probably I'll continue explaining what happened later.
All right. Yeah, we'll get to that. But, you know, for most people, there's always been controversy about why they choose to do gospel music as opposed to secular music. Each one has their own opinion. Each one has their own reasons behind doing gospel music or secular music. For you, Esther, what was it about gospel music that drew you to it?
I would say that, one, I'm born again. And as I began by saying, this is something that has been in me for quite a long period of time. And the reason why I choose to go to do gospel is because I speak, you know, I speak from the Word of God. I've found great refuge, great strength in the Word of God. I've found real deliverance, real personal, leave alone those other things, but then real help, strength to continue each day in the Word of God. So that's why I chose to talk to people about the Word of God, the love of God. And I will say this on the onset, that we are not our own. we are created by God, and He's put us under the sun for a purpose. And we have to recognize that fact that if you got a vessel that you bought, you didn't buy it for the sake of buying it, you bought it for a purpose. Anything that you have in your possession, it's for a purpose. And therefore, God also created us not by mistake, but for a purpose. And I believe deep within my heart that for this purpose, the Lord has brought me under the sun, among other things, to minister to people's hearts and speak His mind to people and His word to people.
Okay.
So,
and
yeah.
What about you, Rose? You of course mentioned you work at the diocese, and you know, what is it about the gospel itself and the music now that you have just recently gotten into that keeps you wanting to stick to the gospel and spread the message about the gospel of God?
One, we've been called to spread the gospel of Christ. And one of my main agenda to sing is that I may reach out to many people as possible, to tell them the gospel of Christ, to encourage them, to bring hope to them, to tell them that Jesus is able to save them and even to deliver them. Actually, the main agenda here is to tell them that there is hope. And especially when we are telling them to wait on God, we are telling them that when we wait on God, He is able to do it for us.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, let's come back to now the music in itself. And let me start with you, Esther. You had mentioned you did an album back in 2010. Then you took a break, or what was happening between 2010 up until 2019 and now 2021?
I would say that the same thing was pushing me to music, the same deep, that call, you know. So when I did my first album, I would say I didn't have really a mentor. That's number one. And number two, the channels through which I can, you know, take my music out there. At that time, we used to do CDs, sell CDs. Nowadays, there's nothing like that. But then I didn't, you know, that selling, it reached a point and I, you know, clinged on. It refused to get out of me. So I faced such challenges like, you know, I didn't have good mentorship. I didn't have the right channels to, you know, progress from now recording until done. And so there were I was in darkness, I would say that, you know. So I decided to, you know, take a break. But then taking a break from recording music and all that doesn't mean that I stopped writing songs. I went on writing music, songs. I've done I have around 20 audios already. So I would write songs, I have them, I have notebook, this one, I filled another one. So the writing was still ongoing. But now recording, I stopped recording until 2019.
All right.
And then, yeah.
Okay, let me come to you, Rose. Given you are very new in this field, you've mentioned just a month ago.
Yeah.
How has it been so far, and especially in terms of support, the people around you encouraging you, keeping you on the right track, it's a new journey to start with?
Yeah. One, I know shall not be easy, but my main focus is on God, because I know through prayers everything is possible. Yeah, so I know in terms of provision, I know the Lord will provide, and through prayers, I know the Lord will continue teaching me on the areas to maybe to sing or to talk about. I know all those areas the Lord will guide me.
All right. And now, coming back to you, Esther, after you got back to recording in 2019, up until now where we'll be talking about your latest music in a bit, how has the support been, as opposed to back then when there was so much going on? As you put it in your own words, it was a dark time. Now, after you got back to the recording phase of your music, how has it been?
I would say that currently I have, since 2019, I've got efficient and good support, number one. From my hubby, it's been so supportive. It's been into this thing. It's like, you know, been following up on everything. I really appreciate God for such a gift, for such kind of support. It's like such a pillar in my life. It's really supported me and also my family. And most of my friends, I already, you know, during that period of recording and producing for other people, I also get in touch with other musicians, other gospel ministers. And then through that, I also gained a lot of, you know, you know, that social
exposure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so I have people that can take me to the next level, that I can reach out to, you know, musically, like in, you know, and get support from.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, Rose, let's talk a bit about Kumngojea Yesu. It's the first song that you worked on. I like that you already gave us a bit of background on, you know, the inspiration behind the song in itself. But for those who are going to be watching it and listening to it, what is the take-home that you need them to understand from this particular song, even if they miss everything else? That one thing that you want to communicate to them using this song about the gospel?
I would want them to wait on the Lord. One, there are so many challenges that we are experiencing at the moment. And people want God to do things like immediately.
Yes.
In ATL, we call it, in African traditional religion, people want a physical God. They want their answers immediately.
Yes.
But what I would want to say, let people wait for the Lord. Let people trust the Lord. Let people stop shortcuts. Let people stop visiting witch doctors. Let people stop visiting evil false prophets. Let people focus on God. Let them trust Him. Those who wait on Him, those who trust in Him, He will never shame them.
Absolutely, and actually the video is what is running on your screen. We just want to give you a minute to get to watch it and listen into that particular song before we get back to understanding also from Esther what her latest song is all about. Kumngojea Yesu by Rose and Jerry right there. We will be playing it for you once more once we come to the tail end of this particular conversation. But we also have Esther Maundu with us in studio this morning. And before we get to play your song, maybe you could tell us a bit about the latest one, at least, that we're going to be playing today, Damu Inanena. What is the background to this song?
All right. Thank you, Jen. The Damu Inanena, it's Damu ya Yesu Inanena Mema. That's how the song goes. Let me say that this song, I wrote this song 2 days before the first corona COVID-19 case was confirmed in the country. So I got that message when I was praying. You know, when it was such a dark time for everyone, every human being, and it was so, you know, paining. There was a lot of hopelessness all over. I remember at some point, we used to read a lot of things from, you know, coming from all over. And then it's like, there's no hope. This thing is going to, you know, wipe out all humanity. Then one day I was just praying, and this message came over in Matthew chapter 4, verse 4. The Bible says, Jesus told the devil that man shall not live by bread alone, but man shall live by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God.
Yes.
And I want to believe that this is the message to the world and to everyone that is listening today, that we will not live and survive by words and by everything else, but by every word that comes from our Maker, the Lord our God. We shall overcome, we shall live. And then through that time, as I was thinking about this, then there's this message that came to me that there's so many voices around corona and around cancer, around the accidents, voices of accidents. We had just come from that time of, you know, terror attacks in the country and all over the world. Things are so dark. There's a lot of divorce, you know, drug abuse and all this. You know, in a nutshell, people are really like pained by what is happening. So voices around us. And then there's this message in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 24. The Bible says that the blood of Jesus Christ speaks better things than the blood of Abel. So that's where I picked the message from. I just read that and I was like, wait a minute, there's something else that is speaking better things here. You know, Corona is talking, COVID is talking about death and all this. But the blood of Jesus Christ, wow, this is good news. It is speaking alive. It is speaking deliverance. It's speaking, you know, victory. So that's how Damu Inanena was born. That I want to just give hope to people that, yes, we are surrounded by all these voices, but there is one voice that is speaking better things, and that is the blood of Jesus Christ. By the blood of Jesus Christ, we shall be delivered, we shall be healed. It goes beyond the grave. It's speaking beyond the grave. We have eternal life in Christ Jesus. So the blood of Jesus inanena mema kuliko kila kitu chochote. And maybe I would say this. In 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 10, the Bible says that there's no voice that is without significance. So every voice that we hear has a significance. Like COVID-19 is like, you know, it is signifying a lot. Cancer and all these other things, anything that we get to hear through our, you know, around us, they are all significant. But let me tell you one thing that we can't, you know, say that the blood of Jesus is speaking and it's not significant. It is speaking life, it is speaking, you know, healing. It is the blood of our deliverance, of our salvation. So, damu ya Yesu inanena mema kwako, kwa kila mmoja anayenisikia, kwa dunia yote, habari njema, damu ya Yesu inanena mema. Amen.
Amen. Adi director nasema by the time tunamaliza interview kama hujaokoka, my friend, the door. Okay? Now, before we get to play your song, you know, looking at your journey, you know, and I like the fact that you pointed out that there was a lot that was going on. There were those dark moments, you know, between the spaces of 2010 up until 2019, where you collected yourself and started recording music again, at least your own music. What are some of the highest moments that you remember or will live to remember about your own music? The journey so far, imekufundisha nasema hata kama things may be dark sometimes, this is a ray of sunshine in all that. You saw what I did there, Ray?
Wow. My high moments in music, I would say I'll talk of the most recent one.
Sure.
When I was doing, you know, Mahali Pasiri, that is the first video I did. I would say that the way, you know, things happened in a way, you know, it was such a dark time for us, for me. But then when I began doing Mahali Pasiri, the way I wrote, I write music in a very funny way, you know. A message just comes and then, you know, it keeps on, you know, ringing in my mind and all that.
I think it was the same case even for Rose here.
Yeah, so the following, I wrote it at night. You know, I went to sleep and I woke up again because there was that, I had read that Psalm 91 verse 1. So, secret place, which place is that? And who is the owner of that place? You know, and what happens in that place? And then the revelation of, wow, this is in the presence of the Lord. This is where we... And that, I didn't say that I wrote that song in November. Okay. That is slightly after that COVID thing had settled. So now, kumbe, I discovered, wow, God gave me this message about damu ya Yesu inanena, so it will keep on talking, and now tumekuwa mahali pasiri. How have we survived? How are we starting to this day? Tumekuwa mahali pasiri. So it was so funny. I was to travel, and then I decided, no, wait, I was traveling in 2 days' time. So that night I slept and I woke up. I took my notebook and wrote that song. The following morning, I called my producer and we did that song. I went to the studio and we recorded Red Malpasiri, and then I traveled with that song, and I would say it's been like, that was, you know, such a great breakthrough, you know, how we did the song, and then how, you know, when it was still raw, before we even like released that song, it was, you know, that was a moment. It was a high moment for you. For you, that revelation, this is a secret place and all that. And, you know, yes, it's been such a time. You know, I rediscovered myself. But, yeah, there's something that, you know, has been working in my life. So,
all right. Yes. Let me come to you, Rose. You know, given you're still very new in this journey, but what message do you want to generally speak about moving forward with your music as part of the ministry that you are doing?
My main, or what I'm trying to say is, Injili ya Yesu iendelee. In terms of telling them what God is capable of doing.
Yes.
In terms of telling them that there is hope. In terms of telling them that we can trust and focus on God. So my main agenda is to tell people to have hope in Christ and to know that He is a God who is able.
He's a God who's able. Now, as we draw this conversation to a close, also in terms of the future plans that you have with your music, what can our viewers and your fans even expect in line with your music?
Right now, there's a song that we released the other day. It's called Rumokia. Rumokia means to be revived. It's talking about the Lord to revive our hearts, that we may be joyful at all time. So it is already out, it is on YouTube again. But every day I'm trusting the Lord. If He deposits a song in me, I sing it. If He doesn't, I wait on Him as I do the work, the ministry that He has called me. Trusting in Him alone and focusing on Him.
I like that. Amen. Esther, in terms of the plans that you have moving forward, now that you've put out Damu Inanena, what more can those that follow you, those like look up to you, especially through your music, expect from you in the near future?
Now, in the near future, I'd say like already have 3 videos in YouTube, and I'm releasing the 4th one next week. Yeah, it's called Bila Mavazi. It's the story of David going to fight without, you know, what people were expecting him to have, and he won. So that is next week. We'll have the next video, and there are several. I'd say like after 2 weeks, I'll be releasing a video. I told you that I already have 18 audios. Yes. So I'm not go by what I recorded before, doing videos for that, but I'm also planning to do some more. Like I have 2 messages that I need to record soon, and so I trust God for His grace to go through this. So there is a lot that is coming from Esther Maundu by God's grace. And I trust God that you'll be blessed.
All right.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much for making time to be with us today, just sharing with us your journey so far and your music, your talent for, of course, spreading the word. As we draw this conversation to a close, maybe you could remind our viewers your social media handles once more, or support muziki however they can.
All right. Thank you so much. In Twitter, I'm at Momo Maundu. Facebook, I use Esther Kamaku. And then YouTube, Esther Maundu.
All right.
Yes.
Rose? YouTube, Rose Njero, Facebook, Rose Nyambura.
There you have it. Thank you very much, ladies, for being with us this morning. We wish you the absolute best as you continue on with your journey. Director amesema nisalimie Rose Njero sana, juu anaitwa Njero kama yeye.
Thank you.
Sindio. Well, we're going to be leaving you with some of their music. You just get to listen in to at least a song each from our guests today. So stay with us. We do have more discussions coming up in a bit.
Duniani kumejaa sauti, maisha ni sauti.
All right, we continue with our entertainment conversation, and right now on set I'm joined by Tim Life, who describes himself as a Kenyan artist, but stationed or lives in London.
Yes.
Maybe we can just start from that, actually.
Start from London?
Yeah, and we start from, you know, like you're a Kenyan artist living in London, so I want to believe that you also do music from there. Does it mean that there are no opportunities in Kenya, or why?
No. Let me introduce myself, first of all.
Again?
Yeah, Timmy Life, that is T-Y-M-I-L-Y-F-E, simply means thank you, Mom, I love you forever. And that is my stage name.
Timmy Life.
Yes, Timmy Life. I'm a Kenyan artist. I do predominantly Kenyan music. But I live and work in London at the moment. Yes.
So that means that is it that you also do music there, in as much as you live and work there, or it's just live and work there, but you do music from here? I do music in both areas. I have a producer here that I work with here. I have a producer in the UK that I work with in the UK. So it just depends on what field I have and which one of the two main producers is able to offer to provide meet that for me. Yeah. It depends with the feel. Yeah. So how would you compare the two? I mean, you would hear, if I can mention, like a good number of artists would say like sometimes there's no opportunities here in Kenya, especially kwa wasanii. And you see, wasanii is just cuts across. Yeah. How would you compare doing music in Kenya as well as in London? I mean, if you talk about opportunities, it's everywhere. Because the entertainment industry is the same. So just to clarify, opportunities, ni wewe ujitafutie? Ni wewe ujitafutie, with a bit of luck. Kama mimi naweza sema, I've been lucky. I wouldn't say it's all been hard work, and you know, I've been lucky. I've met people who've believed in my art and have wanted to support me, and so that plays a big role. At the end of the day, you find that there are people out there who are much more talented than I am, but they do not have the opportunities to meet the right people, or they do not have enough people who believe in them. So opportunities work the same way. You can be as talented here, and if you don't put yourself in a position where if an opportunity comes along, you take it, it would be the same as, you know, being in London. Because even in London, as a Kenyan artist, I don't have a big audience there, London audience. I have a Kenyan audience that is based in London, but I'm trying to cut across, you know, the whole country. And it's difficult because I don't have the connections. I don't know the right people. I wouldn't get as many interviews because all these opportunities need you to know the right person to approach, and that will put you in a better position. So opportunities depend. Yeah, you've said something very important, which I would like us to explore a bit. Yeah. And this is the question of luck, because just from drawing from what you're saying is that the question is not always about per se opportunities. Yep. It is also, you know, the question of luck, like who do you meet per se, who do you network and interact with that can also help your craft grow, or can put you on some, you know, space that at least people can be able to notice, recognize you, know that this is who you are, this is what you do. Does it mean that that is one of the things that perhaps most artists lack? And not just that he lack that I'm lucky, but also networking. Yeah, I mean, they complement, everything complements each other. As an artist, you need to be prepared. You need to put yourself in a position where if an opportunity comes, you're able to grab it. For example, if, say, someone comes at a local performance and someone likes your performance, asks you, you're an artist, what do you do, where's your art? And then you're like, you know, I have not done anything yet, but I'm, you know, so if you're able to, if someone approaches you in that situation and you're like, oh, these are my 5 songs that I've done, this is the plan that I have for these songs, this is what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. It's easier for this person to be like, all right, out of these 5 songs, maybe I'll support one, or maybe I'll help you grow as an artist. So at the end of the day, you also need to do your best to be able to take these opportunities. But like I said, luck plays a huge role. People don't say that enough, and no one makes it alone. Yeah. I love that at least you are honest enough to tell us, you know, luck plays a huge role, because people would say, you know, for me, I'm just a hard worker. I sleep at this time. I try to write music. I put it out there. I do ABC, but they do not tell us that bit of networks or luck, depending on what has worked for you as an artist. Because then again, what different things have worked for them?
I can tell you for a fact, there's no artist anywhere, how big, who woke up one day and was big. They built themselves and they used people, not in a bad way. There's someone somewhere who believed in them. There's someone somewhere who helped them record their first song. That producer, that director, that friend who lent them the money or something like that. People don't talk about that. That you need, I feel like people need to appreciate the people who help them become who they are. No one grows alone. Luck plays a huge role in that as well.
We'll come to your music in a bit, but you see, with what you're saying, I feel like it just raises more questions, at least to enable even upcoming artists to understand. Because the way you're saying, what you're saying is that most artists don't talk about this.
Yes.
Even those big artists that have made it there, they do not have this conversation, which to some extent would make even upcoming artists in whatever capacity feel like, minitawai make kwa industry.
Yes. Yeah, because you see, some of the big artists, I would say, they talk about how hard I have worked, how much work I have put in, which is true. You have to put in work to be able to get there. But I also feel like you said, for the sake of upcoming artists, it's important to help them understand that you need a lot, not just hard work. You can do as much hard work as you can. You can write the best song, come up with the best lyrics. You can have the best feel-good vibe song. But at the end of the day, you need to be lucky in a way for someone to listen to it and be like, that is my jam, I want to support that. Yeah, that is the same thing that happened to me as well. And I feel like I know a lot of artists, big artists in Kenya, who have gone through the same, but they don't talk about it. And I feel like it's a conversation that needs to be had for the sake of the upcoming artists, and also just being honesty for the ones that are up there at the moment.
So it means we need to have more conversations about how people get themselves to the top and not just talk about, I work hard and we leave it at working hard. Because sometimes someone will tend to imagine, kwani mi sifanyi more.
Because it becomes demoralizing at some point. You put in as much hard work as someone else does.
To say that, unajua hii usanii tu haina pesa.
Exactly. Ni ngumu by the way. Usanii ni ngumu. Ni ngumu. You need to be lucky. Si ya kila mtu. Mimi nimewacha mara kadhaa.
But also it's because we need to be very honest about how we also get ourselves to the top. Just at least to also encourage people that are coming up in whatever capacity. Okay, let's come to your story. Because I mean, as an artist who began music is about 3 years ago?
Professionally.
So you had been doing it before that
I had been doing it before. I have been singing since I was young. I was
kila msanii kwa hiyo story.
Mimi nilikuwa naimba kwa choir, by the way. Nilikuwa naimba kwa choir, nilikuwa naimba bass. Nilikuwa kadogo but nilikuwa nimewekwa kwa wale watu wanaimba bass. Sijui kama ilipotea siku hizi na feel nikasi na bass vile. But so nimekuwa nikiimba. I've been singing for a while. I started thinking of doing proper music in 2012, around 2012. And I remember my first song was written to me by a girlfriend that I was dating at that time. Very, very talented lady.
She's supporting your craft.
Yes, she wrote this song, and then I performed it in front of the hood crew, and people were like, yeah, there's something there. Went and recorded it, and I was like, no, not ready yet.
It's not ready.
And then so 3 years ago in 2019, I was like, right, let's try this again. And changed the style, came with a different concept, and it worked. And I was like, it was actually a trial. It wasn't like, I want to do this, now I'm getting in. I was like, let's see how they receive this. Let's see how people react to this. And then when I released Lipstick, the reception was really, really good. I was like, all right, well, let's do another one and another one, and here we are.
So it only means that because we've seen different artists, by the way, here in the country, most especially, someone would release songs for for a while, then they would go just take a rest, go rethink, restructure. Then when they come back, they come back like they never left.
Is
it one of those strategies that maybe artists would even employ? Because again, you'd realize someone akanga kwa game for a while, bako anaanza ku lose relevance.
It's a matter of, like I said, the art that I was doing at that time was mainly geared towards my peers, my colleagues, my hood crew, the people I was hanging out in the hood. I was trying to impress them. I wasn't really trying to think outside of that cycle. So when I recorded a song and I had it in the studio, I'd be like, well, my song is playing on the speakers, that's me, you know. Yeah, and then I was like, yeah, if I'm going to make it as an artist, I need to do more. So I took my time to rethink the whole thing, do my research, meet different producers, because a producer is very important. A producer is very, very important to an artist. If a producer understands your style, if a producer understands what you want in a song, it's easier for that song to be successful than if you just go to a studio and you pay a producer, they record the song. For the sake of the money, they give you your song and be like, adios, bro, see you later, you know? There's nowhere you can go with that. There's a producer who will do a song for you for free, absolutely free, but then they will put the work into it. They will put their craft and you will put your craft, and the two would, you know, make magic.
The two merge and actually make, you know, make something beautiful. Yeah. You have lived in the streets.
Yes, I have.
You moved to Kisumu before you moved to London and all these different areas you moved to. I mean, that in itself, how has it shaped you as a person to even become the kind of artist that you are, shaped your music, and what even brought about that?
Well, what brought about living in the streets is family issues. Mom died. I was 13, mom died, my dad remarried, and yeah, me and my stepmom didn't get along really well. And so for the sake of peace, I was like, right, let me be on my own. I'm a grown man now. And so that was the story of the streets, and how me being on the streets and in children's home and being living in Kibera for a very long time, I think that experience has humbled me. It's taught me there's nothing that can scare me. Like, bring it on, you know. It helps my attitude towards life, everything I do. I think I always think if I moved from here to here, then I can move from here to here, and then I can move from here to here. So it helps, it has helped shape my attitude. It has helped me be humble, because then I understand exactly what it is to struggle. I understand what it is exactly to not have. Yeah, and that has helped me with most of the projects that I've tried to do, that I'm doing right now in trying to give back to the community, like starting the first free community library in Kibera, because I believe education, most of my education is informal. I did not attend normal school like everybody else, and so I have missed some really big opportunities because I did not have the right documentation, the right papers, and I don't want that for someone else. So if I am able to help someone else get that, then I do that. And in terms of music, I have a label that I started as well, which is not making any money. It's just helping artists record songs, shoot videos, because when you ask an upcoming artist, what is your biggest challenge? The answer is always recording fees and shooting quality videos. And if I can take that out of the picture, then I ask you now, what is your biggest challenge? Your biggest challenge becomes you and your art now. So just trying to make sure that I level the playing field for as many people as I can.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, all these experiences put together, is it part of what has made you to become so passionate about education and art as a whole?
Yes. Because I believe education is the master key. And I believe art is the spare.
It's so interesting coming from you as an artist. I mean, you wouldn't hear artists saying education per se. They'll tell you talenta.
No. I mean, talent is important. But as an artist, art is very unpredictable, especially music. It's like, for example, right now with the pandemic, the entertainment industry is shut. You know, if you put all your basket in your art, you are starving at this point as an artist. But if you had, say, some education and invested your in other areas, then the art becomes just part of who you are and part of your whole ecosystem. That helps you. So every artist that I come across who's young and I'm trying to support, I always say, you drop out of school, me and you are done. So mine is education comes first, and then you do music. Yes.
Looks like we're really running out of time, but I wouldn't want us to go without talking about your first song, Lipstick.
Yes.
Tell us just a bit about it.
Lipstick was inspired by true events. We were sitting with my friends. We saw three ladies walk in. One was wearing this purple shade lipstick, and it fitted her, matched her perfectly. And Lipstick was born. We went, said hi. We wrote the song that night.
Just from what you see?
Yes, we wrote the song that night, and yeah, we went to the studio, did it, and it became my biggest song so far.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what next for Teamy Life?
Right now, I'm concentrating on being a single dad. I have a 7-year-old, so concentrating on being a father first. I live with her in London. And then doing more music. I'm working on an EP at the moment. I have done collaborations with some big names in Kenya that are coming up in the EP. I released one song a few weeks ago with Scam Cardinali called Gimme More. So yeah, more music and yeah.
More music, so it means that people should expect much more.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm here to stay this time. I'm not leaving this time.
You're in Kenya to stay?
Yeah. No, not in Kenya to stay. In the industry to stay.
Yes. All right, fair enough. Thank you so much, Teamy Life, for your time and also just giving us your story of encouragement, even young, upcoming artists.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
All right, so that is where we bring the show to a close this Thursday, but I leave you with his latest song. Take a look.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
It's a gift from my father. Show it to the commander of the Greek army. He will follow your orders then.
A blot on the face of the Mauryan Empire.
I have no idea as to how this is related to Acharya Chanakya's murder.
Who had come to you? Who had parted from you? Was he from the royal palace? Answer me!
The emperor is not well. He's on his deathbed.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
We believe we have actually exceeded expectations.
We're now doing approximately 90% of our cargo all on SGR.
Hii SGR ifike Kisumu, iende Maraba, ifike Uganda.
Treni inaokolea Kenya kwa njia kuu na pia kugrow taifa.
Natoka safari za reli zianze, tumeona kwamba nambari ya watu ambao wanakuja kutembelea katika sehemu za kitalii hapa Mombasa na hata Savo imezidi kuongezeka.
Alhamisi saa 2:30 usiku kwenye KBC Channel 1.
On the next episode of
Tukakuona wa maana kumbe ni umbea.
Hizo sura nikiziangalia hivi yani nazifananisha lakini asiingiani vizuri bado.
Kwani Sudi, urafiki wako ishi wapi?
Mishomoroni. Wamtaka?
Na nimtake nipeleke wapi?
Penda nawe.
Ama kweli wewe umefanya kutumwa na Sudi, si ndio?
Next on
unywaji wa pombe kupindukia.
Bebe. Mwa.
Pablo.
Bebe.
Pablo. Uni nani?
Babe.
Anafanana na
Hai.
Majamani, Adaka. Umepikia watoto? Hai. Acha nipite tafadhali.
Nyumba yako ni pombe, watoto wako pombe.
Mori. Hili nini buda? Kwani lawama nini? Sana unakujaje hapa na nini?
Wauzia wanafunzi wa shule pombe, na huo ni ungwana.
this weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Sasa ule mwisho kabisa wa ule gavana umefika. Na hivi nikwambiavyo, kulingana na ile maneno na washikadau na watu wote wale tuliozungumza nao, sasa hivi atakuja kuwa raia wa kawaida.
Rais wote, you are now looking to a future governor.
What?
This is what I used to occupy Samuel Silong's time before he found his groove in the hockey field.
Joining hockey was a mysterious journey. I started casually. Actually, I was sent out of swimming team. Then, due to desperation, I decided to join hockey.
He made it happen at the Friends School Kamusinga, where he found his position as a keeper.
I joined Kamusinga in 2015 as a Form 1, but hockey, I joined hockey in 2016 in Form 2. I used to play in the field. I wasn't a goalkeeper, but in Form 3, I became a goalkeeper. I was the second goalkeeper. That was my predecessor. He's called Glenn Chanzo. I was his assistant. Then in Form 4, I was the main goalkeeper. Actually, I maintained a clean sheet from district level to regional levels.
It was not in vain, as he's managed to save them from some blushes both locally and regionally.
In 2015, we lost in the district level to Chesamis High School. 2016, we were champions at national and East Africa Games. We were the champions. In 2017, we lost to Kakamega, to Musingu in Kakamega, and in 2018 we lost to Musingu again in Kamusinga.
He singles out Musingu as their toughest opponent, who've given him a hard time on the goal lines.
As a player, I saved a lot of goals. We went to flicks with Musingu High School. We lost 1-0.
All in all, Samuel Silong stood out to find his way to the national under-18 team, where his biggest assignment was the 2018 Youth Olympics in Argentina, before he sat for his Kenya Certificate of Secondary School examinations, hoping to succeed in both.
We are expecting to go and perform, to show them that there is hockey in Kenya. Competing with global opponents will be an exposure to us, an exposure as a country, as a team. And we must show them that we have hockey in Kenya, so we are expecting good results. It's challenging, but we have support. We have support from our coach. He gives us exams, he gives us lessons when you are off pitch. So we balance, we read.
And for those who are interested in the sports arena, this is why you should consider field hockey, according to some.
Hockey is exciting. You get to meet people. It's like a hockey family. We meet people whom they will help us in life. Yeah, it's enjoyable. Join hockey and you'll never regret.
We at KBC wish Samuel Silong and all the other candidates success in their respective examinations.
Munitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduchi ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit.
Quickbit?
Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder.
399 shillings.
Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari.
So tupeleke huko hata
mtu aendi huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii lazima nishike kwa simu yako, bonyeza *811 962 hash.
Lazima nishike mapema. Nisiposhika hii simu mapema utakasirika. Unajua mimi nikiwa mtu ya marathon najua niko na experience kabisa. Niko na experience. If you don't hurry, you will not break the record. Okay, wacha nishike hii simu.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii bonyeza *811 962 hash *811 962 hash.
In 2009, I set out to make a film about Lance Armstrong's comeback year.
Lance, how are you feeling? Nervous, but that's good.
I wasn't naive about past doping allegations.
Never tested positive. They think he has. He didn't.
But I couldn't help but root for the old pro.
If I win again, they can't say that. They cannot. But you can, but... I certainly was very confident that I would never be caught.
The gift that he has is his gift as a storyteller.
A cancer survivor overcoming the disease comes back and wins. Yeah, they liked that. Not worth the chair that you're sitting on.
You crossed him, you were doomed. There are people who have really been ruined.
Lance wanted to humiliate Frankie, and he wanted to get back at me.
From that point on, I was shunned, banned from everybody, and a lot of people, wouldn't look at me, shake my hand. This is not a story about doping, it's a story about power. And the story became hanging on to that power.
On the next episode of
hizo sura nikiziangalia hivi yani nazifananisha lakini asiingiani vizuri bado.
Kwani Sudi, unafika kwa ishi wapi? Mishomoroni. Wamtaka?
Nimtake nimpeleke wapi?
Penda nawe.
Ama kweli wewe umefanya kutumwa na Sudi, si ndio?
Sauti ya Kenya 92.9. Hii ni KBC Radio Taifa.
Kila kitu maishani kina sauti yaleta furaha.
Radio.
Sauti ya elimisha, yahimiza, yatuleta pamoja. Sauti ya Kenya
Radio Taifa.
Odari bado.
Morning. 1st of April 2021, you're watching Biz Check right here on KBC Channel 1. I'm Regina Manyara. Now, we've been talking about matters of COVID-19 disruptions. This morning on our interactive segment, as we discuss on what is making trends, we're going to be focusing on electronic trends during COVID-19. There's been a paradigm shift to digital. We've been transiting to digital. Is this long-term or just a knee-jerk reaction to what is currently happening, not just in Kenya, but globally? Taking us through this conversation this morning is none other than William Kamora, the training manager at LG Electronics. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Yes, thank you very much, Regina.
There's always this question that, humans are quite some creatures. We adapt too fast. So this paradigm shift to matters digital, from where you sit, is this just a knee-jerk reaction or this is the way to go long-term?
From my perspective, or from what we have seen throughout the changing years from last year, is that we found out that as evolution went ahead and when people were told it is either adapt or you die, and where we are at the moment now, it means that the only way we can be able to survive is also being able to adapt to the changing times. And we found that during last years, during restrictions of movement and all that, we found that still people had to find ways of doing business and also having ways of customers being able to access whichever products, not even only electronics, even foodstuffs. So I would say this will be the way of life. So it's either we get used to doing online business and seeing how best we can be able to continue.
Adapt or die.
Yes.
No business would want to have the latter option there of death. Now, talking about the trends that you have observed over the last 1 year and also the better part, the first 3 months of 2021, which sectors in your area, or rather in your area of, survey, have taken up, the uptake of buying and selling of electronics? Who is buying this electronics in as far as sectors are concerned?
So we can say we found that we've seen a lot of people in urban setups, and especially those who are working. For most people who are working, once most people are told to be working from home, like in various companies or institutions, we found that led to the uptake of electronics. And also LG Electronics from last year saw a huge increase in terms of people buying electronics, and not only TVs, because also TV was a major business, because when people went home, they realized that they do actually need a good TV that can give you more information, that gives a much more clearer message. And then also when it comes to home appliances, because if you remember last year when the first lockdown came, most people started hoarding products. And when people bought a lot of products, they went back home and found that they do not have storage space. So what do people do? They go and now buy refrigerators. So also refrigerators business grew. And then also still at home, you find that most people now chose not to be having people over, let's say, people who are coming to do your laundry, or even you taking your laundry somewhere. So also now washing machines also came into being. So we can say in terms of electronics or home appliances, from last year, we saw an uptick, especially in urban setups.
Yeah, peri-urban, urban centers. Yes. TVs, home appliances, washing machines.
Yes, exactly.
So this is where, so basically now, where does it stand? Is it a situation where we're seeing man versus machine, especially within the home setup? Because as you've said there, we are buying more washing machines, something that would have been referred to or regarded to as luxury, but now we've seen people take it up. Yeah.
Because you see, the way we've been brought up, or the way we've been grown, the argument of man versus machine has always been there. And the interesting thing is these machines are made by men, or are made by human beings, and we also have to find a way of coexisting together. Man, we can say man and machine, because I'm sure if you get an appliance, let's say for example in your home setup, if you get a good TV, the man is happy. If you get a good washing machine, a refrigerator, the woman
lady
is
of the
happy.
house is happy.
The children are happy. So I can say the coexistence of electronics appliances and also as human beings, we can say it's going much more conveniently. And I can say we are getting to the age of updating or upgrading also our lives.
We'll get to the upgrade part because we know we have smart appliances.
Yes,
as we speak, we have, you know, play me this music and someone plays the music. Quite scary, especially if you've not been exposed to these smart gadgets going forward. But before we get to the smart gadgets issue, you've spoken from a point of positivity. You know, when we've been talking about COVID-19 disruptions, it's all been gloom, especially when we say we don't have money, we're not liquid enough. But we're seeing Kenyans are buying these appliances. So would you say this is a sale from your sales? Is it the middle class that is buying these electronics, or is it the upper echelon, the elite? Or is it just a mix?
We can say it's a mix because for electronics appliances, I usually tell people, everyone and anyone, whichever it is or wherever you live, you do have an electronic appliance in your house. From your phone to your TV to your radio, each and every one of us has an appliance. So we can say even though most people unfortunately lost their jobs, or they are not where they aim to be, or even the cost is there, we do find that most people still were able to purchase some electronics products. So we don't know how the year will be.
Now, William, we understand we are in Holy Thursday. Monday is going to be Easter Monday. So we are in Easter mood, and we will be giving you the live feed of what is happening. That is the Inspector General Tiambai, as well as President CG Ogalo and NTSA boss Njao are issuing a statement at the moment at Jogoo House, where Ben Chumba is live. This is what is happening.
Soft power approach is the best approach, and we expect cooperation from the members of public so that we all work and contain the spread of this disease. We call upon Kenyans to share information with the nearest security office wherever they notice any person breaking the law, traffic regulations, or contravening the Ministry of Health protocols and regulations on COVID-19. NPS officers will remain alert to respond to any distress called during the Easter festive season. And that's end my statement. And I wish all Kenyans, including new members of the estate, a happy and safe Easter holiday. Asanteni sana.
That was just a sneak peek of what was happening at Jogoo House this morning. The IG Hilary Mtiambai there addressing the nation, addressing Wanjiko as we head to the Easter season. Remember, today is Holy Thursday and tomorrow is Good Friday. What he has said there is that the police are to remain vigilant, especially when, we are having the new COVID-19 safety measures during Easter. They're still going to remain. The police are going to be keenly watching if you and I are going to adhere to the laid down COVID-19 measures there. And he has also appealed to you and I, as the members of the public, to notify the authorities if you see a person, working in contradiction, or rather in contravention of these particular measures, saying that, individual responsibility is very key at a time when Kenya finds itself riding the third wave of COVID-19. And he finished off there with wishing all of us a happy Easter. So I tend to believe that even from us, we will. Now, to just set the pace of Biz Check this morning, how about to share with you what we have lined up for you in the course of this broadcast. Well, this is some of, the functions we'll be following up on for you this morning on BizCheck. So do keep it right here. And we have been talking about the shift, the uptake of, electronics during COVID-19. And my guest this morning is none other than William Kamore, who's a training manager at LG Electronics. Thank you so once again. Yes, before we took that particular link there, talking about matters Easter and us being safe during Easter, you were explaining that everyone owns an electronic gadget in this day and age.
Yes.
Please proceed.
So as I was saying, since each and every one of us owns an electronic appliance, and you never know why the reason you chose that brand or why you have this particular product, but being able now, most people staying at home, they do realize now, this is the product I have, this is the functionality that it does, and also this is the brand that I do. And then from there on now, you find most people are making now conscious decisions when it comes to buying an electronic appliance. Because before, most people, they used to buy an electronic appliance, but not taking into mind who is going to use it. Because you buy it and then you leave it at home. Then now when you are at home is when you realize now this appliance is being used by so and so, but I also have to use this same appliance. So I need more information and I need to know how best to make use of this appliance. I
see what you have done there, bringing on the issue of knowing your brand, influencers and such. That's where we're going when it comes to the change that we're seeing, in as far as branding and marketing is concerned. Now, this brings us to our viewpoint this morning. As our viewer, remember, we value your feedback, and you can reach us. You can reach us on our official Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1 News. The question is, which electronic device has come in handy for you during the COVID-19 pandemic? Which electronic device has come in handy for you during the COVID-19 pandemic? You can reach us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1 News, and my Twitter handle is at Manyara. Tell us which has worked and why. You can even further go in and also tell us which brand you're using and why you're using it. So we're talking about these trends that we have observed over the last 1 year, and we're talking about efficiency. Efficiency, and we're talking about efficiency. So if today I was to walk into a market to look for a particular gadget in sales, what should I look for so that I can get customer satisfaction? We know a few places in this town that I might actually be buying a TV, but when I get home I have some piece of plywood. So before we talk about counterfeits and how they affect this value chain, then what should I look out for as a person who is going out there to buy an electronic gadget or an appliance?
Okay, I'll just say first in general on how, if you are a customer who's going to any, be it a brand shop, be it a supermarket, when you're going to buy an electronic appliances, the factors I should advise someone to go and check in is, one, check on the brand, if it is a known brand. And that's why I've said, if you go and check this is a well-known brand, most people have reviews on this particular brand. So if you go and check and then you find, yes, this is an LG brand shop, this is an LG product, and we all know of the brand itself, then the other thing you have to check on is the warranty. So warranty and service, and also the availability of a service center in case anything would happen to this. And also the other thing I'd want to say is, what are your main functions for this product you're wanting to check? And the last point that is most important is on energy efficiency. How much is this product going to consume electricity? Which parts or which components help in saving electricity and can also help me save on money? So I would say those are the 4 main points when you're going to buy any electronic appliance in general you have to check for.
Thank you for those tidbits, but we all know, let's look at the peri-urban areas and focus on Nairobi itself. There's this term that we're saying, Nikanairo, my friend. What you buy, what you pay for is not necessarily what you're going to get home. Issue of counterfeits. How has it affected, the sale of appliances, at least over this 1 year that we've had this surge of COVID-19?
Yes, so when it comes to counterfeit, I'm sure none of us would willingly want to get a fake product or a counterfeit product. And it all boils down to where you go to buy and who is selling it to you. So one thing that we would like to encourage one is visit a well-known shop or a brand shop or a hypermarket to get this information. And we'd also like to applaud the government through the anti-counterfeit agency that also equipped and also enabled the distributors in this country to follow the said procedures to try and curb this. But I would say on a brand level, especially at LG Electronics, they do take these matters because all these processes can be done, but what ends up is the end user. Because when you go to buy, you've bought this product. How can you be able to check for yourself if it's genuine or not?
Good question.
Yes, so LG does have a platform you can check. So whichever product you're going to buy, there is a short code you can send, the model code, to a number that is given to you, 0700 545454. You can check, or you can even call the service center and tell them, I'm in this shop, this is the product I'm being sold for LG, this is the product code, is it genuine or not? And then
so
you
as LG is doing that. But now let's look at the market in general. So many people have been duped.
Yes.
I mean, we talk about the code, the mark of excellence, genuine. But people are actually making these stamps and such.
Yes.
So can you give us the numbers, from the market, how much has been lost over this 1 year in regard to, fake items, fake electronics in the Kenyan market? Would you have the statistics?
I wouldn't have the statistics as such, but what I can say is the numbers did reduce from the year 2019 when the government set up these measures to try and counter whoever brings this product, because for the fake products or not genuine products to be in the market, they have to pass somewhere. So when the government sets up such measures to see who is bringing this product, why is the intention, have you passed these credentials, do you have the energy ratings, do you have the required documents, where are you going to sell them, if someone has developed a problem, where are you going to solve this solution, then I would say that would help.
Now let's talk about online trade. As a person who is within the value chain, would you advise one to buy an electronic appliance online or physically go to the shop?
Now that has been one of the, one of the factors, or most people are arguing between online and offline. How best is it to buy a product online and not offline?
Especially electronic appliance. Remember, I can't test it online.
Yeah, exactly, because most people are, because for someone who's buying an electronic product, they want to feel and touch to see how exactly this is. But now you see from last year, you find that movements are restricted, most outlets are closed or shops are closed, you cannot go and buy somewhere. So where we resort to is going to check online. And like we said, for people in urban areas, even for you yourself, before you even buy anything or you even go somewhere, you always go online first to check out, this is the product I'm interested in. And you find nowadays most consumers have a lot of information at their hand. It's not like 10 years ago, most customers did not have information when they're going to buy. So you find you will go online to check out this product. And most of the queries that we get for online people is, where can I go and check out this product? And then also there are some phony websites that do not give such kind of information. So I would say is, depending on where you are checking, if it's online, check on the website itself. The website itself, how genuine it is, you can be able to check, and they will also be able to give you your query. So, for example, I would say from LG, we have an LG online brand shop, lg.brandshop.co.ke. So this is an online brand shop, and if you check for the products, they do give you assurances on the warranty, on the parts, and then also on such advantages like paying on delivery. Because you find, like you said, in electronics, most people will not pay. Unlike food you pay, then food comes most of the time, or any other product. But electronics, if you find an e-commerce site that tells you pay, we bring you your product, then you have bad.
That's a red flag.
Yes, exactly.
We prefer COD, cash on delivery.
Yes, cash on delivery. So that's
yes.
what I would advise most people. Yes.
Now that you've already established that the recorded an upsurge in as far as the sale of electronic appliances in the last 1 year. Then what you've said, the TVs, the home appliances, the washing machines. But now let's look at the issue of working at home, the tabs, the computers. Did we also record this upsurge, or rather upsurge in sales of these particular gadgets?
Yes, also because you find most people, like I said, in urban areas where they used to work, let's say most companies do provide laptops and gadgets. They do provide laptop and gadgets that make you laptops and gadgets that make
I see you getting confused with what is happening on set, yeah? Yes, you're addressing the nation.
Yes, I'm addressing the nation.
Directly ahead is your camera, so feel free.
Yeah, so like I'm saying, you find that most people who are working, one thing they found out is the company does provide you a product or a laptop or a computer, but then when you're told to go work from home, it's either you carry or they tell you to source it for yourself. So you find most people, they did get to also improve or upgrade their laptops, and then also get extra screens to help in doing their work efficiently. So we can say also phones, laptops, there was also an increase.
So is this, how then would you say, what would be your take in regard to the impact on how we do business? There's been over the years, you know, one-on-one interaction, but now COVID has happened, we're working from home, customer relations. Overall impact on how we do business.
Now, on a business perspective, I would like to tell most businesses is COVID has taught us that you need to expand your customer reach or customer base. So you have to take into consideration of balancing your offline and online business. How are you being seen online, or how are people seeing you virtually? So how people can be able to view you or your product or whichever service you're selling online is what will also drive your sales offline, because everything starts on online. So how everyone perceives you online is how they will also perceive you in offline shops.
Which sectors, in your opinion, have done, you know, a take up in this, you know, with, you know, this is a hardware.
Yes.
Hardware. Which sectors, in your opinion, have really got onto the bandwagon, so to speak, with this shift?
One sector I would say, like we said, is e-commerce, and also another section I would say is also on growth of social networks. Like you see a lot of people in Facebook, Instagram, and then also the age of what we're calling of influencers. Because nowadays most people, like we said, because most people lost their jobs, so you have to find other ways of income, and which better place to exist than online. And you can see that we did find a lot of influencers, and they are very helpful in getting your information out there. So how best you use influencers, or how best you use your online people, is what will determine how you're going to survive through this situation.
So what does this say about, you know, the state of digital literacy within the country? Because I mean, these gadgets, you need to be versed in how to navigate.
Yes.
What is your take in regard to that matter?
So what I can say is one thing we saw, actually in Kenya or in this region, we are actually privileged or better in terms of internet infrastructure, and then also penetration of smartphones, because most people nowadays do have smartphones that can work better, that can shoot better videos, that have good audio quality. So you find that influencers, or whatever it is that is online, through internet and then also through smartphones, has been getting better.
Now talking about, yes, we are getting better.
Yes.
We are on the fast lane. But then introduce matters of policy when it comes to the introduction of digital tax.
Now, in digital tax, like I said, also on a government perspective, because also this is another sector that also the government had not also, how can I say, had not tapped into. So what I can say is, you know, most of the times there are some people bring up, let's say, conditions or issues on what the government says or what the government does. But what I can say is we can only adhere to the rules that have been set up by the government on how we do our business online. Yeah.
So you're playing it safe.
Yes.
You're playing it safe on that,
Yes.
but that's fine. This is national television now.
Yeah.
Opportunities then, where do the opportunities lie in this value chain for local manufacturers in as far as electronic appliances are concerned? Because I think we have the know-how.
Yes,
but we have the capacity.
Yes, I think we are getting there because you find when it comes to local manufacturers, and what I can say is LG would like to partner with the local manufacturers, but there are some policies that one has to follow for one to be able to be certified as, let's say, a manufacturer or as an assembly plant. And what I can say is there are a lot of ventures, especially in not only manufacturer, but also, for example, in technical services. Because you find, for example, through the setup of electronics or the electronics business, the issue also of service comes into being. And for a product to be serviced, you do need authorized technicians and professional technicians. So also this will lead in also in the education levels for our technicians, and then also for our electricians to be able to service these products. Yeah.
Now remember, we are live and we value your feedback. So this morning we were asking you which electronic devices come in handy for you during the COVID-19 pandemic. Tell us where you're watching us from and what this product was and what it does. Now we're already getting feedback, but you are not telling us which product. You're just saying you're watching. We have a Bozi Bazoo. Yes, Abozi Bazoo says that he's watching. He doesn't tell us where he's watching us from. We just want to remind you that we are sampling your feedback. Tell us where you're watching us from and which gadget you have found has come in handy for you during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're looking at the emerging trends. Now shifting focus and shifting onto, when you talk about emerging trends, not just in the sales, uptake of sales, we have now smart gadgets.
Yes.
Where are we at? If we were to name top 10 off your mind right now, what we have in the country, what would they be?
Top 10 smart gadgets?
Yes.
Aha. Wow.
We can do 5 corporate. Okay, but like let's do 6, 5. Yes.
Products
corporate,
or brands?
Yeah. No, products. We're not talking about brands. We're talking about products. Like I can go out there and get appliance X that does X, Y, Z. Yeah.
Okay. I would say smartphones. I would say smart TVs. Also, we have smart refrigerators. We have also smart lights. We have washing machines that are smart. We have locks that are smart. I think I'm at number 7.
Now, let's go to the home area there.
Yes.
Smart homes. You said we have a smart fridge, a smart washing machine. But now we've seen there's also a trend toward smart homes.
Yes.
Maybe you can take us through that journey. When you say a smart home, what does that entail?
Okay. What I can say is for someone to say you have a smartphone,
a smart home.
A smart home. Oh, yes. Smart home. For someone to say you have a smart home, 2 things are usually involved. One is that you should be having a network, because for it to be smart, they should be interconnected. And then you should be having now these said smart appliances for them to be able to connect to this network. So a smart home, for our viewers out there, I could say is having, it's like a living ecosystem of all the products that you are in your house, meaning your TV is connected, your phone is connected, your washing machine is connected, your refrigerator is connected, and you can be able to access them through your phone or even through your TV from wherever you are. So yes.
Now, since we have gone the smart way, let's look at sectors that are likely to benefit, with the shift into matters tech. Let's look at issues of security. We have had now cameras, people having, cameras within their homes, monitoring their domestic workers and such.
Exactly.
Issues of security when it comes to, electronic appliances that are available in the market.
When it comes to now security, because as we say, security starts with you. So I would encourage people is this smart appliance that you are getting, when you buy the appliance or when you're connecting to the appliance, there are usually some terms and conditions that they give you. And there are also some access that you grant this product when you are, let's say, when you are registering. So depending on what is it that you are connecting, please check on what it has access to. Because if I take you for example, if you download an app on your phone, if you download an app from your phone, you find out that it asks you, allow access to what? Allow access to this, allow access to this. So it tells you, and most people, we usually say, we usually give the authority to the app that you tell it, yes, allow access to this, allow access to this. But we do not check what you've allowed access to. That's why you do find most people say, my phone was hacked. But actually, you allowed...
You actually picked that from my mouth. The issue of cyber security threats. You know, when we go tech, we take the good and the ugly. Now, issues of security, how do we address that? You've already said we check what we are buying, but then the scope in which these appliances, or rather the functions that it does, and the access it guarantees. Even someone can actually hack into your system. I imagine your home, they see you. Talking about security threats and such.
So what I can say for security, like you said, someone can be able, most people, let's say they want to access or they want to hack into your system. So especially in your home, because that's where you feel most secure. So depending on this product that you have, be it a refrigerator or a TV, what is it that what are you allowing it to be able to be accessible in your network? That's what I'm saying. For example, for LG smart appliances, what they do access is just simple functionality and monitoring status. Because you might find some apps or some other appliances that tells you we need access to your home network, we need access to your data.
Yeah, very scary.
Yes,
Big Brother is watching.
Yes, so what I can say, once you download, let's say, for example, the LG ThinQ, the only information that it actually gathers from you is the information about the product. Not any other information about your house, about, let's say, your data. It only needs information about your appliance. And from your end, when you are accessing through your phone, the only thing you get to see is how you're controlling or how you can monitor your appliance on your phone.
Now, talking about issues of security and cybersecurity. Now, this is something that we have to really tackle in depth.
Yes.
The access we give our gadgets. How do we control? You know, you have an appliance, but now that is hardware. How do we control now the software, part of it, How do we go about it?
How I can say is to go about the software bit is, one, read the fine print. Because
and we don't read.
And we don't do it because you always scroll at the end and you just accept the terms and conditions. So one is read the fine print, because when it comes to accessing your phone data or also accessing your home network or whatever it is, you have to read the fine print on what it does, and you either accept or you reject. And I want to tell the customers, also the viewers, to go a step further. Don't only reject, you can always reject and inform other people outside there, because every app you download somewhere has the comment section.
Where we share the information.
Where you share the information.
We will be tackling that in not too long. We take a short break, but remember, we're talking about matters of electronics. That gadget that you have home, how has it come in handy during this 1 year that we've been doing the COVID-19 pandemic? I mean, we're not done. We're still, riding the third wave, but what has worked for you and why? We are open for comments. You can reach us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1 News and on my Twitter handle at Ray Manyara. We take a short break. We'll be right back.
This Easter, KBC Channel 1 invites you to a rich, enticing programming menu that will spice your holiday season. Watch lots of music.
Why do you cry? We're always fighting for nails in your hands, nails in your feet.
Dramatized Bible stories.
Talk about Jesus.
I killed him.
forsaken me. Gospel music.
Congratulations, I have seen the glory of God.
Kids programs.
Was the way you were moving your body.
And loads of refreshing and entertaining programming.
Only on KBC Channel 1. Next on.
Unywaji wa pombe kupindukia.
Bebe. Mwa.
Pablo.
Bebe.
Pablo. Ini nani?
Babe.
Anafanana
Hai.
Majangani adaka. Umepikia watoto? Acha nipite tafadhali.
Nyumba yako ni pombe, watoto wako pombe.
Moro. Hii nini buda? Kwani lawama nini? Sana unakujaje hapa na nini?
Wauzia wanafunzi wa shule pombe, na huo ni ungwana.
Next on.
Hello, what's going on here?
Morning, darling. Join us.
Nani alikwambia anataka maombi yako? And what are you doing here?
Tiff, I'd like to talk about.
Talk about what? Nothing to talk about, Glenn. Get out. I said move. I don't need you.
Sipe mimi nitumie kakitu.
Inaonekana ilikuwa gari kubwa hii, ilikuwa imeniambiaga 10k.
Simekwambia ulengeo story. In fact, it never happened.
Avoid Nancy at all cost.
Kazi fresh lakini wazi.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Hey, Fala, you have so much authority today. Hey, what is happening?
Oh, auna mbali, we are going to be models like those who advertise air food.
Air food? I've never had such a thing.
Mafuta ya nywele.
Does anybody here care about my presence?
What did you say? That was my contract.
Was. That is past tense. Now it is my contract. Who is the idiot now?
Confident, okay? Then you... Like that.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Thank you for still being with us. This is KBC Channel 1 and BizCheck. I'm Regina Manyara. My guest this morning is William Kamore, who is a training manager at LG Electronics. And we're talking about electronics and wanting to find out which electronic gadget you found handy during the COVID-19 pandemic and hopefully is still working and functioning as it should. So you can reach us on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1 News. Mine is at Ray Manyara. Now let's talk about issue of safety when it comes to the use of these particular gadgets. We've had misinformation about certain electronic appliances. One most common is that phone actually blew up in my pocket, or if you speak while your phone is still connected to the charger, likelihood it might burst into flames and such. Safety use of certain gadgets. Maybe we can start off with the smartphones, going down to just the other basics.
Okay, you see, when you talk about safety issues or safety concerns of any electronic products that you might have, is one, like you said, causing any illness or any health, and then also the other part will be on in case of any how can I call it, any explosion or anything that leads to this. And you find that what actually leads to all of these issues, you'd find, is especially on faulty parts. So which part exactly is this faulty? So you find that in most years gone by, for example, the smartphones, most faults used to come from the battery or also from the charging ports. That's why most of them used to blow up. But I can say with time or years as we continue, you find that most brands now are taking into consideration these parts, or how best are these parts that are being connected to this. And it also joins points to our point mentioned on counterfeit and also how genuine this product is. Because if it's genuine and if it's within warranty period, you find that you can be assured of its safety concern. So same would be cases for TVs or even home appliances like refrigerators, washing machines. We've had cases of some causing damage to houses, causing fires, and this is all boils down to what components are these that are being targeted, or what leads to this. So for example, for home appliances, refrigerators, washing machines, you find the core components might cause some fault. And for example, for LG Electronics, that's why we do offer 10-year warranty on some core components, so that one can feel assured and be safe, knowing that this product I have, it's also safe for my use.
Now let's talk about, when you talk about smart gadgets, some are quite pricey. It's not something you just walk in, you actually save years towards ownership. Issue of insurance, because let's look at how, we may not have, a safe or rather reliable source of power, so power surge, then such. Issue of insurance when it comes to these gadgets, especially home appliances. Have Kenyans gotten or rather bought into the idea of insuring their home appliances?
Well, it's good you raised that point, because we found that when most people come, let's say, visit our brand shop to buy a particular home appliance, one thing they do raise is because, you see, a home appliance is an investment. Someone is buying, it's the same way you'd buy a house, you'd buy a car, because you're buying a product to last you 10 years, 15 years. So one of the concerns that most people is, can I be able to get insurance on this particular product? And we'd like to commend other insurance parties that do play part in this, because they do offer these services. So if you buy an appliance, there are also some on standby. You can be able to get insurance advice and also policies for your product.
So how has been the uptake when it comes to insuring for home appliances? We already regard insurance as a luxury. How does the uptake for this particular insurance, especially for home appliances, how do we compare?
What I can say is, in comparison, most people have actually taken this into consideration when they are buying, because you see, once you get the information that yes, this product I can get insurance for, and at how much cost this is it, and also depending on the terms and conditions on what am I being insured against on the said appliance. So I can say when most customers feel that there is this service, they do have a higher uptake in the electronics.
Yeah, confidence in the electronics.
Yes.
Now the issue of compensation, at what point does the brand come in the event that there is an anomaly? Someone gets maimed and God forbid someone loses their life.
Yes.
Compensation issues. At what point does the brand come in through?
At the point the brand comes into this is, one, what caused the fault? Because there should be a leading fault that led to, let's say, any injuries or any other possible outcome. So one is what was the cause, and it also boils down on the service centers, or where did you take this product, or where do you take this complaint? Because also, I would say also insurance or even the government agencies will tell you, where did you get this information? So having an accredited service center where you can take this part, and the company now, the brand itself, LG, comes into being. Whoever purchased this product, yes, you bought this refrigerator or this washing machine, and it is within the warranty period. What caused the damage could be any fault, a manufacturer fault, or even any other fault. So if it's a manufacturer fault, a fault by the product, the brand comes in giving replacing the part, or even replacing the whole unit as a whole. Yes.
Now talking about service centers and replacement, there's been an uptick in sales for refurbished appliances, computers, second-hand goods. What would you advise in terms of safety? People go for, you buy what you can.
Yes. What I can say is, you see, most people, they always want a value for their money. And if you're not getting this, you always try and get a second source or where you can be able to get this other product. And for refurbished cases, I would say is most people should be most wary of home appliances that are refurbished, because you're not sure on what was the issue before you uptake this product. So I would encourage people to visit authorized brand shop, authorized shops. And issues nowadays of cost, we can say most sales points do have services or credit services for you to be able to get that appliance that you want. Yes.
Now let's talk about policy and regulation. The issue of cost of importing these gadgets to the country. We are expecting the budget to be read out in the next few months.
Yes.
What are your expectations ahead of the budget presentation, 2021, 2022?
You see, it would be hard to talk about expectation also for the budget, because what 2020 taught us is we always have to be prepared for what will come. So I'm expecting whatever it is policies that we are being told or being advised, that let's say the cost of importation or even maybe the tax at the end is what the customer will be paying, what the end customer will be paying.
So you are okay because we as the customers are going to bear the brand?
No, I'm saying in terms of this, so we also as a brand, we have also to care for what the end customer will have to pay for this. So what happens is you have to look in-house on what products that we will be able to deliver at this particular cost to the end customer, so that also the end customer cannot feel the pinch on the cost. Yes.
Now, there's this notion that almost a majority of all of our electronics are coming from China. What is the situation on ground? Tuambie tu kweli. Are they all Chinese, or, you know, what is selling? Is it just Chinese, or do we have other sources?
We can say there are various sources or various manufacturing plants or assembly plants that the products do come from. And you find that we can all agree that when it comes to China is one of the largest in terms of manufacturing and assembly. But also looking at the wider Asian market, you find also there are other products like LG Electronics from Korea, which you get products from South Korea coming into this market, also from Middle East Africa. So we can say the field is large enough to cater for all products that are coming. The key issue being the genuine of this product.
I like what you've done with that term, genuine.
Yes.
Genuine product. There's this assumption that, you know, a majority of what is in genuine counterfeit comes from China. Would you dispel that, or is it a fact? What would be your take? And this is entirely your opinion, because you've been interacting with these gadgets.
Because you see, the China market is a large market where you do get a lot of appliances coming from that market. So what I can say is whoever is the end user, whenever you're going to buy a product, it's always good to check on the functionality. Like I said, the 4 points that we started with.
Yes.
The functionality, the parts, the convenience, and the warranty that comes with it. Yes.
So in a nutshell, being that this is an Easter mood, we'd want to give you an opportunity to just speak to that, and also, you know, just share your expectations in regard to where we are as the COVID-19 situation is concerned. Yes, we've registered an uptick in the sale of these electronic appliances, but is it for the long term as we come to a close? Is it for the long term? Because I mean, I don't go changing my smart TV every now and then.
Yeah, exactly.
So if I bought it once and it has a 10-year warranty, you're not going to see me in 10 years.
You never know. You might see you in 2 years.
Oh, God.
Because you want to upgrade to another bigger size.
Oh, God. Then also just you've reminded me the issue of how the middle class spends its money on luxury.
How they spend on luxury.
While we are still saying we do not have money.
What I can say is we cannot say the issue of, because what the middle class do is that, because most people might find you having a washing machine or a refrigerator or let's say a smart TV, and they term it as luxury. Well, in essence, it's all about convenience and functionality. If it's serving a purpose, a main purpose of the product or the reason you bought this product, for example, if it's a washing machine, if it's giving you a much more hygienic option of washing your clothes using steam than you would use your hands, it means it gives you better service and better functionality at that. Yes.
So it's not about
it's not about luxury. Yes.
So our spending is who spends most? Is it, I know we have primary target A, B, C, where A is elite, B is middle class, C is a lower cadre. Who is spending most on electronic appliances in peri and urban areas, as you've said, where we've recorded the surge?
I would say B. Yes, because that's where we do have a lot of people in this category
wanting to upgrade,
and yeah, you can say that. Yes.
So what is influencing, other than upgrading, convenience or just change of lifestyle?
Also, lifestyle plays a big part, because if you visit your friend and you see that he or she has this and this appliance, you also want the same kind of lifestyle on this. So we can say we can take all conditions that help you in upgrading your life, because it's all about you yourself and the convenience you want and what kind of life you want to have.
So between men and women who are buying these electronic appliances, and there's been this notion that electronics, those are the other gender, your gender. The dudes are buying the electronic appliances.
I usually say when it comes to who buys, men or women, you find...
Please, not who gives the money. There's a huge... buys? It's not where the money is coming from, but who is buying. Who is buying? Is it men or women?
You see, for men cases, they do tend to buy more of home entertainment. Here's where you find a man will want a bigger TV, he will want an audio system that's good, and on the women perspective, they want a washing machine, they want a refrigerator. So what you find now is is now in terms of balancing the cost, because the man would want a big TV, and then you told, instead of us getting a big TV, let's get a considerable size of TV and a washing machine.
You know?
Yes. So I would say it's more of a balance between men or women, depending also on.
But men are buying more entertainment stuff.
Exactly. Yes.
While women are buying more functional stuff.
Yes.
What does that say about this gender? What does it say about this gender? Anyway, as we come to a close, in terms of age demographic, is it the young or the old that is buying into electronic appliances?
You find that when it comes to age demographics, you find I would give the range of years mostly from about 25 years to about 40, 45 years. So that is the range where you find, and you find even those buyers that are in that range, you find most are buying products for themselves, or they're also buying products for their parents. So you do find who buys and who uses sometimes is different.
Yes. As we come to a close, I said it's Easter.
Easter, yes.
What are your expectations? I mean, we're business, we have different working hours, curfew hours have been reduced. What is your take, especially during this Easter season where we are thinking of gifting our loved ones and such? What is your take?
My take would be, during Easter, first I'd like want to tell people to be cautious and follow the said guidelines that we are having for COVID, because it all boils down to you yourself as an individual, but then also take into consideration if you're in the spirit of giving, or you want to give back to the community, or want to give back to your parents or your friends or your loved ones, take a point of checking which. If it's a product, it is okay. You can get them a product online or offline, as we've talked about. But then also you have to check on the condition of which and where you're taking it.
Where the gadget that you're buying,
yes,
and where it is going to be used.
Yes.
Just give us one line. Why would you say that? Is there a difference between where I'm going to be using my smart TV? I come from Mary and I live in Kajiado.
Yes.
Maybe you can elaborate that.
Because of where you're going to use it boils down to who is going to use it. So yes, depending on who and where is what you'll get to drive on the functionality that you want to get from your product.
Very well said. That has been our first guest this morning on BizCheck, just talking about, the trends that we have been seeing, or rather the market has been seeing during COVID-19, at a time when we've been encouraged to work from home if you can, as part of the measures to curb the spread of COVID-19, where Kenya finds itself riding the third wave here. There's been an upsurge in the sale of these electronics, with men presumably continuing to buy more into entertainment appliances, the TVs, the sound systems and such, and women going for convenience and functionality within the home, you know, the smart fridges as well as the washing machines. My take home this morning is that if you use a product and doesn't work as it should, you need to let a brother or a sister know so that we can weed out these electronic appliances that are not giving us value for our money. My guest has been William Kamore, the training manager at LG Electronics. Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you very much.
We are not done. We're going to be looking at matters budget. What are your expectations ahead of the budget? What do you think should be prioritized ahead of this year's budget, which we understand is around 42 billion more than what was projected? So do keep it right here for more in regard to what is trending and the stories that we are following up for you. We take a short break. We'll be right back.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
It's a gift from my father. Show it to the commander of the Greek army. He will follow your orders then.
A blot on the face of the Mauryan Empire.
I have no idea as to how this is related to Acharya Chanakya's murder.
Who had come to you? Who had bought it from you? Was he from the royal palace? Answer me!
The emperor is not well. He's on his deathbed.
Haya! Mtumishi! Ni wewe? Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mlitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit. Quickbit? Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder. 399 shillings. Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
On the next episode of
Tukakuona wa maana kumbeni umbea.
Hizo sura nikiziangalia hivi, yani nazifananisha lakini asiingiani vizuri bado.
Kwani Sudi, urafika kwa wapi? Mishomoroni. Wamtaka?
Na nimtake nimpeleke wapi?
Penda nawe.
Ama kweli wewe umefanya kutumwa na Sudi, si ndio?
Tunakupa burudani.
Na umbea, yani stories zinazo trend kwenye mitandao ya kijamii.
See baby now we are doing one. We are doing one. Interview kali za wasanii wapendao. Mguu pande panda milima. Aoye izungushie hapo ma. Kama
Ndani ya March of Life kupitia KBC Channel 1 na Pwani FM.
Kuanzia mida ya saa 3 mpaka mida ya 5 kamili asubuhi. Ukiwa nami ni Teken 1GB.
Mimi ni Marco. Keep it locked.
Yeah.
say make I wine up for daddy.
Wao watoto wamejiingiza kwa gang mbaya. Naweza waambia wachana na hiyo gang, itawasaidia. Wajoin kwa kitu kama football, boxing ama vitu zozote hizo.
We get to meet the fox and the goat. I'm going to teach you how to make a head crown.
Cheza, watu wote hebu cheza, zikishika zikibamba hebu cheza.
In 2009, I set out to make a film about Lance Armstrong's comeback year.
Lance, how are you feeling? Nervous, but that's good.
I wasn't naive about past doping allegations.
Never tested positive. They think he has. He didn't.
But I couldn't help but root for the old pro.
If I win again, they're not gonna... They can't say that. They cannot. But you can, but... I certainly was very confident that I would never be caught.
The gift that he has is his gift as a storyteller.
A cancer survivor overcoming the disease comes back and wins. Yeah, they liked that. Not worth the chair that you're sitting on.
You crossed him, you were doomed. There are people who have really been ruined.
Lance wanted to humiliate Frankie, and he wanted to get back at me.
From that point on, I was shunned, banned from everybody, and a lot of people, would look at me, shake my hand. This is not a story about doping, it's a story about power, and the story became hanging on to that power.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake, hizo miaka zote mtu ajui kujua kuandika note, note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli itasaidia.
Nini nakusumbua na nini?
Nauliza, ni bwana?
There. Insult me, okay?
Mama Angel.
Don't you dare.
Haya, kwani ni vita? Nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpiga mpige nini?
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
I never trusted that woman.
I don't trust Bianca either.
What it's like living on the street. I mean, I bet it's tough after living here. I bet you've suffered a lot.
Obvious, Yair's in love with you. But he has to come down from that cloud and accept once and for all that he's not good enough. I just want one thing for my birthday, and that's it. I want Bruno to come back home.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Sasa ule mwisho kabisa wa ule gavana umefika. Na hivi nikwambiavyo, kulingana na ile maneno na washikadau na watu wote wale tuliozungumza nao, sasa hivi atakuja kuwa raia wa kawaida.
Rais wote, you are now looking to a future governor. What?
This Easter, KBC Channel 1 invites you to a rich, enticing programming menu that will spice your holiday season. Watch lots of music.
Why do you cry? We're always fighting for
Nails in your hands, nails in your feet. Dramatized Bible stories.
Talk about Jesus.
I killed him! Why have you forsaken me? Gospel music.
Congratulations, I have seen the glory of God.
Kids programs.
Was the way you were moving your body.
And lots of refreshing and entertaining programming.
Only on KBC Channel 1.
Yes, we are still speaking matters business right here on Biz Check. I'm Regina Manyara. We're talking about the budget 2021-2022. What are your expectations? And we're also going to be looking at, financing this particular budget that has we've already seen in regard to the BPS that has been made public is at 41.2 billion shillings. Is going to be larger, an increase than what was earlier projected. So this morning we are asking you, what should be prioritized in this year's budget? That's your question there on the screen. What should be prioritized in this year's budget? You can send in your feedback on our Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1 News. Mine is at Ray Manyara. To take us through this conversation is none other than Mr. David Kingo, who is an economist at 14F Consulting Group. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks a lot. I appreciate for the conversation.
When you talk about matters budget, this is numbers.
Yes.
Let's start about the question that we're asking our viewers this morning.
Yes.
How about you start us off by answering it? What do you think should be prioritized in this year's budget?
This year's budget, of course, must focus on production. And what is really ailing Kenyans is putting food on the table. So one is to policies that ease business, doing business in the country. And number two, production of food in the country. They must focus on that, ease of doing business and food production on the table.
Mm-hmm.
That I think it's what basically Kenyans want to feel first.
And that is what you think should be prioritized?
Yes.
Now we've had the opinion in regard to that. And let's get to the thick of things, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
We understand it's going to be, 41.2 billion shillings more than what was earlier projected.
Yes, sure.
What does it mean when it comes to this particular? We're doing 3.01 trillion shillings.
Sure.
Quite a sum there.
Mm-hmm.
Issue of financing the budget.
So I think one of the challenges that the Treasury is going to face, one of the things that I've done throughout the COVID period is to ensure that they're almost going into maximum in terms of taxing items that we say they have in elastic demand. What do we mean by items that have in elastic demand? Like, for example, alcohol, even petroleum at a point will have in elastic demand because they are unresponsive to price. If you fuel 5 liters in your car, then when the price of fuel goes to around 150 per liter, your car must still have to consume 5 liters irrespective of price. So we've seen the government going to maximum of that. So taxation might not be the best option, and the tax base is still contesting. So financing this budget, they have to look at contains the fiscal framework, number one, to reduce development expenditure, and number two, focus on external borrowing, because the cap for external borrowing, remember, was raised by the parliament sometimes last year into around 9 trillion. So we can still borrow, we still have within limits, even though the debt management strategy also need to be relooked at because of COVID-19. So concessionary budget that will reduce the development expenditure, that is one. Number two, don't focus on taxation on an elastic good because we've gone to the maximum of that. Then number three, the tax base has reduced. So we can't open as much as we could because business have closed with the closure and the COVID restriction and such. So putting those specific items on the table for the CS Treasury, then they need to focus on borrowing. That can be local and can be international.
Good
borrowing.
Lord, when you say borrowing, Kenyans are already up in arms in regard to a loan facility that we're supposed to be getting from IMF. And you say we need to focus on borrowing. Help us understand that.
I think the thing is how these funds are utilized. We talk about borrowing for development or borrowing to fund a certain infrastructural development, then that is an objective. After the borrowing has been done and the money has come in, if Kenyans were made aware of how each and every shilling was spent into this, for this particular borrowing, then it would be objective and Kenyans would not be fighting. I think Kenyans are worried because they don't know how these funds are utilized. That's the question. But if they're able to understand how each and every coin of this particular borrowing is used, of course, then they would appreciate. Because borrowing for development expenditure comes with something called multiplier effect. When a road is constructed somewhere, new businesses open up and the tax base also increases. Because if a certain highway had 10 shops along it, Once the highway is expanded, we'll have 50 shops along the highway. So now we'll have 30 extra shops to tax by the government. So the tax base increases. So I think the focus is how these funds is used. If they're used objectively, then they are good for the country because they increase tax base and give the government many options to tax or many other institutions to tax, corporate, be the business, be the individuals. So in that case, they reduce the tax burden per individual, but when they are not utilized well, of course, then they come to the pinch.
Well, I don't know, we are walking a thin line there because we all know situation on ground. That would be the ideal. That would be the ideal situation if we borrow for development. You've mentioned the issue of transparency in spending. But now the question comes in, is it sustainable? Looking at our debt situation as a country.
Because of the COVID-19, then we need to have the discussion of whether it is sustainable or not. Because by the time the borrowing papers were being placed on the table, then COVID-19 was not there and the economic structure was better. But now as we head to the next financial year that we're about to read the budget, the situation is different. The economic status is completely different. So the ability to pay needs to be revisited. The government needs to revisit that because the economy has really contensed and we get taxes to pay this debt. So the amount that we borrow also needs to be discussed and the appetite for our borrowing needs also to be refocused based on the economic situation. So the burden to pay is still there and it has really increased and it's an area that the government needs really to focus on the amount that they're subsequently borrowing.
Do we have time to turn around? Are there options to turn around? Are there options there in other than just, accruing more debt?
I think the situation that we are in, we call it in English a catch-22 situation.
Indeed.
Yes, because the government needs to run, of course. Then how does the government run? It runs it earns money from, you see, for you have to earn an income to run your own issues. But the government will have to get tax from people that can run and the people that they're supposed to tax or the business that's supposed to tax, they don't have that particular ability to give out taxes because business has contensed. So it's a catch-22 situation. I mean, the tax is not there. It has contensed. We need to run the government and the money is required. So the only thing is to eat ample pie and try to look at external borrowing a bit and be very slow on internal borrowing. And the reason that we have not had a conversation about internal borrowing, remember the government can still borrow from local commercial banks.
That will crowd the market.
Yes, but it's a conversation that we will not have as an economy. So we need to still see how we do external borrowing that is objective, because we cannot tax Kenya more. When that time comes for us to pay debt, or based on how the installment are spread, in the next 2 or 3 years, the economy might be better. And then we're able to pay these debts. Then the debts must have been used for the right reason and must have been used effectively. That way, the Kenyan people will not feel the pinch. Yes.
You see, we're working with probabilities. We are working with probabilities.
Yes.
And what I'm hearing from you is that we have almost reached the brink when it comes to taxes. Then.
Yes.
What options lie there in if we do not focus on taxes? Government does not have its own money.
Sure.
It relies on you and I. So what options are there?
I think what the government we really focus on is on slate of new taxes that are going to be reintroduced.
So what do you think
is a tax that we call 1% on
turnover tax?
On turnover tax.
Yes.
Remember, this is you can do turnover and make a loss.
Yes.
But you still have to pay.
Yes,
so
on
the
projected profits of the previous year.
So the government becomes part of your cost even before you make the profit.
Yes.
So those are new taxes that are going to be introduced and rephrased differently for the government to ensure that they are able to get something from individuals before they make even the...
So are you seeing the turnover tax move from, it was at 3%, then reduced down to 1%. Are you saying that there is likelihood for it to be increased?
Yes, of course, those are the chances. Because we can no longer keep on saying we want to tax the profit and the profit is not there. So the government has to work along with you. So the government now becomes part and parcel of your business. Usually they come at the tail end when you announce your profit there and they get a percentage of that. But currently they really want to work with you throughout the process. And that's why we're saying when you have expenditure that's going to ease doing business in the country and create subsidies, for example, for some items, then the cost of doing business becomes lower. Then you have a space for turnover taxes government. Yes. So they must do something to doing business so that they're able to place different taxes on the chain of distribution. Yes.
I'm sweating. I'm sweating. When you say taxes, Kenyans are almost losing it. And we have seen some demos that were taking place yesterday with some section of Kenyans asking the president to ease up on some of the measures there. The curfew are saying that they're not getting business, the closure of entertainment joints and such. From where you sit, what is the ripple effect of the new COVID measures in as far as you're planning, this fiscal policy?
Yes.
What impact would it have?
I think the impact is quite big because I just want to give you a real scenario of how an economy is run when it comes to individual contribution to the economy. So I saw an hotel that has around 12 people and they have laid off and remained with 2 people. These people who are laid off have people that they are employed, for example, in their own homes, in their villages, who earn from the salary that these people get. Those people who are at home, who are supposed to earn from this person who was laid off, they subsequently get laid off. These people at home, they were running a small kiosk at their villages, which was being financed by the salary that they get, that comes from the person who was laid off in Nairobi. So that particular kiosk is also closed. That's the structure, that's the impact of the structure. When you look at it as individual businesses being closed, then we will not see the bigger picture of the impact. But when you look at the chain of distribution of that particular disposable income this person is getting, then we get to get a sense of the impact in the economy. And all these people that rely on this particular one individual, they are tax-paying individuals. So the tax that was being obtained by this person who was laid off, it's not there. The tax that was being obtained by the person who was employed in that particular home, either VAT by virtue that they shop, that tax is not there. The person at home, that tax is not there. The person who went to farming, to grew, to have some sukuma wiki that this person put in their kibanda, that person has lost the market. So the system crumbles altogether. So the impact is magnificent when you look at it in that perspective. Yes.
Wow. Negative multiplier effect of the COVID-19 pandemic that we find ourselves in. Now, there's been a concerted effort by government to widen the tax base and, rope in the informal sector, which is largely around 70%.
Yes.
But we have not had concrete policy to bring this on board, or this cadre on board in as far as tax base is concerned.
Yes.
So where does that leave Jua Kali? And remember Jua Kali during this COVID-19, as some of the sectors are saying, business is bad. You need to give us an economic stimulus for us to survive this.
Yes.
How do we balance that?
I think there's quite a big challenge, and the challenge has not come today, or has not come with COVID-19. This challenge started by the time we did interest rate capping, because the ability of this Jua Kali or SMEs or wherever to get loan from commercial banks was curtailed. So their capital, their financing capital was really a challenge. So the businesses went down from that particular perspective. Coming after interest rate capping, the economy was not performing well. The government say they will have structures to have loans for these particular businesses, and that was not there. COVID-19 has come and these businesses have been closed. And then we also need to look how we define Jua Kali, because they are biggest employers in this economy. So the only option that the government has is to shy away from local borrowing and push commercial banks to give credit to Jua Kali people once the economy opens, to medium and small enterprises when the economy opens. Let them place deposit through commercial banks for these people to get capital to do business. That's the only way they can inject money into this particular sector and have it come back. Because once it closes down, of course, the whole system now comes down with many other issues. Yes.
It will not come to that. Now we want to remind you the question that we're asking you this morning as we look at, budget expectations for the budget the year 2021-2022. What should be prioritized in this year's budget there? And so to speak, we're already getting feedback in regard to this particular discussion that we're having this morning from Jackson Kehara, watching from Nyeri. He has added on to the conversation saying government borrowing comes into two forms. Domestic borrowing is meant to finance the budget deficit when the government is not able to meet its expenditure commitments using domestically raised revenue, while external borrowing happens when government happens when the domestic basket and revenues cannot sustain its operational costs. Mr. Kingo, this brings now the issue of how then do we prioritize, government expenditure?
I think we mentioned earlier that the government expenditure, there is one expenditure that we cannot ignore. We call the recurrent expenditure.
The recurrent expenditure is that.
That has salaries and other constant expenditures. So what needs to happen is that the government needs to look at the structure of the recurrent expenditure and what is it that they can survive without for that particular period of COVID-19. I had a conversation about parastatal or public institutions to be merged that will be reducing the current expenditure. There are all those infrastructural developments that can be postponed. We call it a phased development, whereby they look at which project is more priority, which project is quite a priority to the public.
Which project is a priority. Now we understand that President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader there and former Premier Raila Odinga is doing an inspection of the Green Park terminus. We're going to be having live pictures for you there talking about priority projects. This year we have some feed there to just show you what is happening at a time when we are looking into what government should prioritize in as far as the budget, this year's budget is concerned. Mr. Kingo, who is an economist, just shedding some light on what options the government has in as far as, first of all, financing this budget that we've already indicated is going to be 41.2 billion shillings larger than what was expected at Those are some of the pictures there from some of our players in the media sector. We are working in a symbiosis here where we rely on each other. So it's KBC, yes, you're watching, but you're getting some feed there from our brothers there. That is, you can see President Uhuru Kenyatta as well as the former premier, the ODM leader there, inspecting this particular project at a time when we're all asking our question, the issue of development, what should be given priority, and if some of these projects that we have seen over the last 10 years in Uhuru Ruto's tenure there, we have been focusing on the Big Four agenda, and development, especially on matters infrastructure, has been taking center stage, or rather being at the fore. Is it time that we let go of some infrastructural projects, given that, the economy is not doing well? It has taken quite a beating there owing to COVID-19 disruptions. What do we give priority? Mr. Kingo here on studio says that we need to focus on matters of food production as well as easing the cost of doing business, so that then the taxman can, get the taxes to support government's development agenda. Those are some of the pictures that we are receiving live for you. This is currently happening at the Green Park terminus there. As you can see, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handshake counterpart there, ODM leader Raila Odinga, walking the talk, inspecting some of the projects. Well, we're asking you this morning, what do you think should be prioritized during this year's budget there? 3.01 trillion shillings is what we are likely to be spending, or rather be required by government for the year June 2021 to June 2022. These are some of the pictures, and once we get the sound there and get to ground, they think they're getting to sit where they're going to be. This is just an inspection tour at a time when we're saying we need to look at what government is spending our monies, taxpayers' money on, with Mr. Kingo there saying that we need, if there was transparency and accountability then in regard to how government is spending this money, then it would go a long way in dealing with taxpayer apathy right now. Now, let's get back to studio here. Mr. Kingo, before we took that particular live feed, we were talking about then the issue of priority, and that was a question in as far as, you know, recurrent expenditure. Now, we cannot forego the impact then, the changes in our policy and how they're going to affect then our spending. We have the BBI, and we are expecting to go to the referendum. If it sails through, it will affect the economy because we will have a bloated wage bill then. How do we accommodate this? You know, we said there's some aspects of government expenditure that we cannot shy away from, and this will happen to be one of them. You know?
I think the issue of BBI, it's more or less a different conversation. I'm sure, I'm not sure how we
are looking at the issue of the wage bill, because this happens to be, it takes a larger amount of the budget. Let's be very honest on the recurrent expenditure aspect of it.
I think the government must be able to focus and see to what extent they're increasing this particular expenditure by the BBI. And I'm not sure the BBI will be the biggest contributor of recurrent expenditure change. And of course, we've had conversation about consolidating some of the government institutions. Maybe it's a way that they want to fit in what they're calling the BBI structure in between the recurrent expenditure to ensure the change is not magnificent. But of course, it's going to have an effect to the economy if the change is as much as it is being mentioned, because we've not seen the salaries and say this is the percentage change. Because in economics, I think we deal with figures.
Yeah, you
when
deal
we
with
see the
figures,
then we'll be able to say this is the change, and the change has this particular effect. But I'm sure that the CS Treasury is really focusing on reshaping the recurrent expenditure. Yes.
Recurrent expenditure there. I still want to go back to the issue of borrowing.
Yes.
And you have said we have to borrow externally because that's where we find ourselves. And you have further said that if we know what we are spending this money on, then we will not have this antipathy that we have right now. But now the cost of borrowing. And it has also now come to the issue of tightening of credit conditions.
I think when you look at the economic sphere of how the government tries to get funds for its development, then you'll be able to understand why the government would borrow. For example, let me give you one example. If the government wants to float these treasury bills and bonds in the market, for them to fund and say we will borrow locally and don't get loans externally, we have to look at the opportunity cost of that. So commercial banks will look at that and say it is cheaper to give this money to the government.
And there's a security.
So, so when someone like me goes to a commercial banks, then say you're quite risky, so we will not give you loans. Of course, they will not tell you that, but they'll have structures where you cannot be able to get funding. So this one will crowd out the private sector. So that option is not there. Number two, can we get taxes? The businesses and the economy as contest. So we can't go there. So that we say that 22 situations, so we won't go there. Number three, can we go external? Yes. And what is external borrowing in layman's language? It is the future value of the tax that you're supposed to pay. So they spread. If we to get some money to fund the current budget by taxing, then we will tax now and fund that particular budget, but it is not feasible.
It is not feasible.
So they say, because of the structure of the economy, let us borrow outside. Come and fund what we are supposed to fund if we were to tax.
But then, who is giving us this money? We have an option of, multilateral, yes, vis-a-vis the other. But we've seen the government going for more expensive loans for a longer period. I mean,
it depends with the structure of the borrowing. There are those that will give loans without conditions, and others will give loans with conditions, of course, to ensure they are used adequately and for the right purpose. So that one happens. And so based on that particular discussion, there are quite aspects that the government say they look at these particular loans. And number one was to ensure the loan side, for example, in USDs. Because when the Kenyan shilling is losing value against the USD, So the value of the installment will not be the same over time, despite the loan being one particular disbursement. So those are the options that the government trying to see how they can balance these particular loans. But what we are saying is this: if these loans are taken, let them be used for the right purpose.
I hear you.
That way, Kenyans will not feel the pinch, because these taxes that we're supposed to pay today, they have agreed, let us borrow. Then we tax you the next financial year to pay that particular loan. But the question is, if we use this money rightfully, and I tell you this economy will change. For example, assume if Thika Road was financed by external borrowing, then that road was never constructed. For example, if that was the case, then the number of businesses are around or along that highway would not be there.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is that. Now, there's something you mentioned that, now the government needs to look at, supporting businesses and easing the cost of business. And the issue is the issue of credit. Yes. You've said that now government has to work to ensure that commercial banks lend to small businesses.
Of course.
That would have been the ideal situation. But let's call it as it is.
Yes.
Given the reports that we got earlier the week, we have seen some banks even holding on to the dividends, citing poor performance of the economy. These are the same that we're saying we have to rely on them to fund or rather support businesses.
Yes.
Likely not to happen. Would you think with this, what we have right now, is there an opportunity then for government to actually issue an economic stimulus to cushion especially MSMEs during this situation that we find ourselves in?
Yes,
is that the only option?
Yes, and that's why I said initially, the government needs to work with commercial banks and place some deposit for lending to businesses, so that because the rate at which the commercial banks are giving to the borrowers, of course, they're saying the risk has been itemized, and it is not like you can't vary risk based on each and every individual. So that's an issue that they are having. But when you say the government will place stimulus programs through funds to commercial banks, then ask business individuals to go and borrow. That way they're able to push money to the economy, because the issue here is money circulation. The issue here is funding businesses. And how? The best structure that the government can do is through commercial bank. The other structure that the government can do to spread money to the economy, but they are not as effective as we've had a historical issue with the Kazi kwa Vijana. Of course, they were meant to put money in people's pocket. The same channel would be used by commercial banks. So commercial banks are the best channel. So if you stimulus program that run through commercial banks, then people would be able to borrow. And of course, the risk would be reduced, because government will also be a security to that particular agreement. So I think that's an option that they can still explore to push money to the economy. Yes.
Now, talking about the banks and it matters of interest rates. From where the regulator sits at this point, I think they find themselves in quite a precarious situation here. You had an economic stimulus, reduction of VAT, it has lapsed in 1 year. Commercial banks have come out and say, you know what? The loan book has grown over that 1 year when we had this, so please, we cannot take another.
Yes.
But let's look at the situation on ground. Is it possible for us to have another economic stimulus guided by, the regulator, and as far as commercial banks are concerned? Remember, they gave the timelines for persons who have defaulted to be June.
Yes, sure.
And people have their land being reprocessed, vehicles being reprocessed, but then they do not have the ability to pay back. Is it a time we have a conversation on risk-based interest, per corporate, per individual? Is it the time we had that conversation?
I think that's the best model that will really work for commercial banks. But there are also other issues. When you open this particular interest to market forces, the commercial banks tend to exploit borrowers. So sometimes there is some control checks here and there, but they need to agree on the CBR rate and plus the commercial rate above the CBR rate on what the best and what the objective pricing that they can have. So the control pricing for interest rate is still very objective, because individuals and borrowers would be exploited by commercial banks if it is open to market forces. Number two, when you put this economic stimulus in terms of even what we saw, taxes, commercial banks are said CBK asking commercial banks to give moratorium to borrower that you can stay for some time without paying your loans. But you ask, the main question is, the business that you are doing to finance it particular loan, is it still there or the business has collapsed? The business is not there. So you either ask me to pay after 6 months or after 10 months or after how long? The business literally
still
is
not
there.
have the capacity.
So the thing is to focus first on creating incentives for people to do business. Create the ease of doing business. Economic stimulus that enhance circulation of money to business people, to corporate. That way, you're able to create the business that these people are able to pay these particular installments. But you cannot say you want to give stimulus programs, but you're not focusing on the business. Telling me not to pay my installment for the next 6 months, and in those 6 months, you had closed my business. So by the time you open, the customer scope has changed. So I'm no longer in this business anymore. So I'll be listed, for example, and my loan will go into non-performing. When you look at the financial reporting standards for even these particular loans, something we call percolation, where you obtain the worst classification of any single loan if you have more than one loan. Of course, that one is extremely affecting commercial banking in terms of creating even provisions for this particular loan. So the commercial banks will also come to struggle. And when commercial banks are struggling, it's the first red signal that your economy is not performing. That one should be a grave concern for the government. When commercial banks are not performing, then it is the first red flag that your economy is not performing. Because commercial banks give you a signal of the real person down there in the economy. It is individuals, borrowers, who create that what we call loan book. It is individual borrowers who have created that non-performing loan book that has resulted into a certain commercial banks make a 42% decline in profit. So it tells you 42% of that population who have borrowed in that situation, their business are not performing. When you combine all commercial banks, it is the real face of the economy. So all those businesses have come down literally. Yes.
And in them coming down, there is an uptick in fintech.
Yes.
Kenyans have taken now, we are borrowing digitally.
Yes. I think borrowing digital,
digital platforms, that is.
it's a conversation that...
okay, those are some of the pictures that you're seeing there. We were just highlighting for you earlier there. Sorry for interjecting you, Mr. Kingo there. That is President Uhuru Kenyatta with his handshake counterpart there, former Premier Raila Odinga there, the chair of ODM, inspecting the Green Park terminus. We are yet to hear both address the public there. We're going to be bringing you feedback once we get it there. But that is the situation. It is currently underway. You know, government, what we have seen over the last 10 years, there's been a concerted effort to focus on matters of infrastructure and, you know, the Big Four agenda. And infrastructure, we can see, was one of the sectors that really gained, or rather was one of the priority areas that was given in the budget that we're currently discussing there. That is the last year's budget that comes to lapse in June 2021. There, we're talking about the 2020-2021 budget there. Infrastructure was one of the areas that really took a larger share, or rather chunk, of matters, you know, budgetary allocation. We'll also be looking at how then will this year's budget deviate from the current budget, given what we are currently finding ourselves in, matters of COVID-19 as well as a succession politics, with a question of what exactly will Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy be of. There's been that question in as far as matters of policy and politics is concerned. These are just live pictures once we have settled, and we have the president ready to address persons there. Remember, this is a tour, an inspection tour of Green Park terminus that is currently underway at Green Park there. Now, bringing back that conversation there, the issue of commercial banks and lending and just setting the pace, or rather just giving an indicator of where we are as a country. Well, it seems we're still going to be stuck there for a while at Green Park. But Mr. Kingo, when we come back, we're going to be looking at, you know, how then will this particular budget deviate from what we currently have, looking at priority areas. We've had the big four. We've had the big four pillars, that is manufacturing, food security, healthcare, you know, all that. Is this going to be, are we going to see a difference then in this year's budget, or the budget that we're looking at, the June 2021, 2022? How different do you think, the deviations from where you sit? Kindly proceed. Those are some of the pictures. They have not started.
Okay, what basically would happen is that, and before we come into that, we initially talking about the digital lending.
Oh, digital lending, yes.
So that we
close up before we go.
Yes. So what basically happens is that digital lending is quite okay, and it is the future of banking. When you look at, for example, at an institution like Equity Bank, they said 95% of their transactions were done off branch.
Yes.
Meaning they were done on the phone or on their channels of distribution. That one means if the framework of lending in totality is digitalized, then lending through the phone, the best banking setup. The problem is the whole framework of lending is not on the digital platforms that we have. So we're going to have, so it's a growing conversation. It will be there, but it's the future of banking. So now we come to the
deviations of
deviation.
the budgets that we're currently having vis-a-vis the policy paper that we're expecting in June.
I think the issue of agenda the big four agenda is no longer feasible based on what the economy has gone through. For example, talk about manufacturing. Since the big four came into place, we've not seen incentives or structures that have been actualized on manufacturing. We talk about housing. We've seen how long it takes, of course, to place a project on the table and have it rise, of course, takes quite some time. So we've not seen the push and the actualization of this big four agenda. So basically what will happen, the budget has to refocus on economic recovery strategy. And economic recovery strategy will not be based on the big four agenda. Economic recovery strategy will be based on what are our main contributors for economic growth in this country. One is agriculture. So it has to focus on that, putting food on the table. Number two is a bit of export, but the export that is about processed goods. If it's about coffee, it's about tea, having incentives that create value add on the supply chain, ease of doing business, incentives to create value in the way we do business. Number three, when we talk about on the face of expenditure, recurrent expenditure will have to be relooked at, extremely relooked at, which was not the case with the last year financial budget. The last year or the current financial year budget was more of a budget that was geared toward supplying of money to the economy, pushing money to the people. But of course the economy locked and that is no longer a strategy that can work. Number four, what else the government will focus on is the debt management strategy. How can we, without defaulting, reduce the value of installment that we do, be either changing the currency, changing the terms of borrowing, extending the moratorium. So all that in a nutshell will create a different budget from whatever we've had in the last financial year. And not even the last financial year. Historically, we've not had a budget that is being read when the economy is this particular low. We go back even before the Vision 2030. There was a paper that economic recovery plans and strategies that were there before Vision 2030. We need to go back there and come back to our Vision 2030. So it will be more of a budget that wants to create, wants to trigger business again, wants to create incentives for people to have new businesses. Because the businesses that we've had along, they've been closed and they have changed. So we're looking into a budget that has economic stimulus, that has strategies, that has intensive, that create ease of doing business, that we can have new businesses come up. And that's what we're calling increasing the tax base, or that the government must use this budget to refocus as a benchmark for the 2022-2023 budget. If this budget is not done well, 2022-2023 will be a worst-case scenario, because this is the only budget that can create new businesses, that can create a new tax base. Remember, we also going to a limit of external borrowing.
Yes.
So we will come now again, the catch-22 situation will no longer be there. It will be back home. We have to pay taxes to finance our government. So what we do with 2020, this 2020, 2021, 2022 will really matter what will happen on 2022, 2023. So it's an economic recovery strategy. It's not about Big Four. Yes. It's about production side of the economy. How do we create? How do we enhance our GDP? How do we ensure that we strengthen our foreign exchange value? That is the concept that this budget needs to focus, and not about Big Four agenda. Yes.
So clearly, Big Four agenda aside, this is an economic recovery budget.
Yes.
Now, talking about, the businesses that we had have closed,
yes,
but we have also had some spring up.
Yes.
What is the future of cottage industries within these timelines that you're talking about?
Well, I think there is something we call, now going to business a bit, we call self-disruption. Then every business must have self-disruption, hotel and cottage and such. So they must have self-disruption and reinvent themselves. Because going by what they have been doing historically will not work. Will extremely not work. The economy has changed. We expect to see mergers, even on small businesses, where someone who had an hotel combined with someone who had a bar. Someone who has an hotel combined with someone who has a guest house. That way they're able to cushion their capital base. That way they're able to share the cost, the underlying cost for doing business. That way they're able to put resources together and grow their business. But businesses must do self-reinvention. Otherwise, we cannot proceed with the way we've been doing business historically. Because the market has changed. I want to give you an aspect. This, what they are calling a zoned area. If someone in Mombasa was supplying food to Nairobi, for example, or they were doing any supply to Nairobi, and now they cannot access Nairobi, but they realized they can supply the same items because Nairobi has been locked, so they have to look what we do. They realize we can still get the same market in Taita Taveta, in those other counties, and even cheaper. They had never thought about this because they knew traditionally their market is in Nairobi. So the distribution channel has been disturbed. It has changed. So if you relied on that supply from Mombasa and to Nairobi, you need to self-reinvent because you're no longer getting it. They have gone to Lamu County. Once you locked, you change a lot of things. Even the businesses have, the communication of business changes. So by the time we open, your supplier is not there. So you have to reinvent yourself.
Need to reinvent.
Yes.
And one of the worst hit sectors is the tourism sector. Yes. Remember, this has been really struggling. Yes. When you look at, the post-election violence of 2007, 2008, to the depression, global depression therein, it has been trying to reinvent itself. Here we are, red zone, yes. 5 counties there, so to speak.
Yes.
While international visitors can still visit these areas, yes. Focus on the domestic tourism sector. We have seen that this has remained rather stable during COVID-19.
Sure.
But now this disruption that has happened, when you say the red zone, they account for almost for 60% of the GDP,
yes, of
right?
Course. Yes.
So now we are not moving.
Yes.
Where the money is, people are not moving.
Yes.
How then what options does the tourism sector then have?
I think what has really happened, domestic tourism are really grown because even these safari vehicles or businesses, they never used to be there. But currently they are all around and they are getting business, and meaning people are appreciating domestic tourism. So once the same is locked, and remember, you still have limited time to do the same.
Oh, yes.
So, of course, that's a business that people have to focus on. It is no longer a business that will bring food to your table for this particular duration. So that one means that particular industry is completely disrupted. I think we need some adequate consultations by the time we make these particular decisions, because the people who run these particular industries, they understand them better. The person, if there was an organization of this tourist movement vehicle or safari vehicle, then they would place something on the table on how the business can be well done, looking at these COVID issues. When the decision is generic, or the decision is quite general, some good option that could be on the table and make the business run are not discussed.
Apparently, the tourism sector has quite some organizations. We have like KATO, the Kenya Association of Tour Operators. Actually, now they need to take that particular advice that you've given. They need to come out and say, hey, we can do X, Y, Z, because the market we have seen, domestic tourism, is what was likely holding us through in that. Now, let's look at something also, another sector that is really tied up to tourism. It's the entertainment business. Bars are closed.
Of course. So that's also another issue that has really affected the income stream, even for small and medium enterprises, even for the Jokali industry, because bars are not corporates. That's the way this industry is run. They are not corporate. The individual businesses, one person, 2 or 3 people, open these particular businesses. So the number of people who have owned these particular businesses has increased over time. So they are quite a big player in the industry. They are quite a big contributor to the economic sphere in this country. So when they are closed, the effect is going to be a lot. So that's why I'm still saying there was a need for more consultation to these particular key players. And the players were not as many as such. Church and hotels and bars and even one extra group. That one would really see that the decision is quite objective and put different players on the table. So,
do you think this will affect, do you think this then will affect issue of revenue? Because we have seen over the years sin tax charged, on alcohol, such and such, cigarettes and such. Is it going to affect revenue?
We said initially the government focuses on what we call items with inelastic demand, like fuel and alcohol and cigarettes. Because if you take, for example, a few number of cigarettes, then you will not reduce the number of cigarettes that you consume because the price has changed. If you are 3, you still do 3, despite the price. So that is usually the cash cow for taxation system. So when it is interrupted, of course, the structure of tax collection is completely messed up. If the government had an option on the table, I'm sure, touching inelastic goods, good research demands would not be a consideration. So, of course, it is going to affect the amount of revenue that is being collected. And that's why we said, when they open up, when the economy opens up, when they say now these COVID-19 restrictions have been eased, there are those taxes that will be introduced. They'll be renamed on these particular items.
We underscore the term renamed. They will be not new, they'll be renamed.
And different tax created in the supply chain to ensure the government is able to get as much as they can on those particular goods, because those are the only goods that the government can get. They can't do VAT on unga, for example. They can increase such good. So
we pray that they don't.
Yes, so of course those commodities are quite sensitive to even inflation. So they are going to be introduction of new taxes. They are going to be new structure in the tax base. Items that were never taxed will now be taxed. So all that will ensure that we have different items brought on board in terms of the tax base and the new taxes that are going to be introduced. Because once alcohol and other items that are in that particular category that we mentioned earlier are disrupted, the revenue collection is extremely messed up. Yes.
Now, as we work towards the end of this particular conversation, then, Mr. Kingo, having given us all that, what options are there for government and such, what should Wanjiku expect for her? Should we expect some reprieve? Because you've mentioned something, issue of fuel prices. Kenyans are up in arms, and there's also talk of having it increase in the next few days. So what should Kenyans, Wanjiku, expect? Is there something for her in this fiscal paper that we're expecting?
So I'll give 2 sides of the coin. So number one, the worst fear for Wanjiku is inflation. So inflation is imminent. And inflation, we say, a general increase of prices of goods and services in the economy. Because fuel, once the price for fuel keeps increasing, of course, inflation comes in place. Number two, if the government says or creates incentives for people to do business, for ease of doing business, let us all rise up and try to take advantage of such opportunities. That's the only way we can cushion ourselves. Yes.
But as it is, just give us an overview. Give us, you're an economist. Yes. Give us an overview of where we are. If you were to sum up Kenya's economic status in this current time. We have the vaccine rollout, yes. We have matters of succession politics, yes. We have the BVI, all that. Sum it all up.
I'll give a technical explanation. Okay. There is what we call the Arostos economic model that says the economy develops the way an aeroplane has preconditions for takeoff, then it has a takeoff, then on the air until it comes to land. So our economy is on the preconditions for takeoff. Our economy is on a standstill, and it is already engaged a reverse gear. So until the budget focuses on economic recovery strategy, we will stay on the preconditions for takeoff stage. Our aeroplane is still stuck at the airport and settled. The engine is not on.
Oh, the engine is not on.
Yes,
let me just share some of the feedback we are receiving here from Jackson Kihara, who says salaries and wages as well as expenses for general maintenance and operations take nearly half of our budget, leaving little to funding for development where we could generate more income. I think he's agreeing with your earlier on statement in regard to how we need to really look at what we are prioritizing. So we just have an expensive system of governance, and no one is willing to reduce their salaries. There is that, because we all know we cannot, cannot reduce anyone's salary the law does not allow. Sure. Then on issue of debt service, he says that debt service is estimated to amount to about 30.5% of total recurring expenditure and 31.5% of total government revenues for the year 2021-2022 fiscal year. Yes. You agree with this? So
there is a conversation that the debt repayment is almost surpassing our recurrent expenditure. So it's like what you get, you have a bigger loan than what you spend. Those who have had the conversation about a third rule, they have already surpassed a third of the balance that is not committed should be a that. But these people have already gone beyond that.
Yes, we all know on individual. Let's put it on individual terms. Say Regina has a loan. Put it that way so that Kenyans can understand.
So if Regina has a loan of 50,000 and spends like 20,000 on that particular, that salary of 50,000, they spend 20,000 on their own consumption, paying rent and blah, blah, and such. Then that was 30% that remains is some part of it on savings and such. So what has happened, if Regina was the Kenyan government...
If Regina was Kenya.
Yes, so it means these 20, the government has a loan of, Regina has taken a loan of like 40,000. So 20,000 is what you spent, 40,000 is loan, that is 20 and 60. So you're already going extra to get money for your survival. So Regina cannot save.
I will not water that down. That's a conversation we've been having this morning. Thank you very much for keeping us company. All those that you've sent your feedback, especially Jackson there, who's basically agreed to what Mr. Kingo there was saying in regard to where we are in matters of economics, saying, yes, if we recalibrate our fiscal paper, so we are likely to be on the right path there, focusing on matters of agriculture, value chain, and such. Thank you very much, Mr. David Kingo, for spending time with us here and just helping us understand what we need to expect, or rather what we should prioritize come the budget 2021-2022. Up next is Tamrini, the Swahili version of what has been trending, and also an opportunity to interact on that particular platform. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.
KBC